What's happening there, pal?
How are you, senor?
You okay? You having a good day today?
I'm fantastic. I'm
Really?
very happy. I'm happy we have a great guest today. Because when I think of this guest, I think of what a really good time we had. Because our guest and I got to do a big fish out of water element of The Sopranos and sequence. That was a lot of fun. We got to shoot in LA. We stayed in Santa Monica. And we had a lot of laughs together. And I think what he did with this character, he made him very specific and really interesting. It's a very memorable character. He was born in Queens. He's appeared in 82 different films and TV shows, including Transparent, The Practice, Ray Donovan, Mad Men, NCIS. He appeared in 16 episodes of The Sopranos, including the finale, Made in America. Please welcome the actor who portrayed Little Carmine Lupertazzi, Ray Abruzzo.
Hey, Ray.
Hey, boys.
How are you, pal?
Oh, it's good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
I
haven't
see
seen
you. Normal circumstances, but
I
not
haven't
seeing
seen
anybody
you in a
anymore.
long time. Yeah.
Has been a while.
So, you know what? I don't think Bobby and Carmine were ever even in a scene together.
No, I think maybe a big funeral scene, or maybe the Cleaver premiere, but we never spoke.
All right.
Well,
but that was intentional, I think. I think that was intentional on Ray's part.
I think it was, early on, I actually took less money and said, as long as I don't have to interact with Steve, I'll take less.
You know what the funny thing is, Ray? The funny thing is that I don't think you and Michael are fucking joking. That's what I think. I think that's the truth. I take everything to heart.
Right? We all do, don't we? We all do. We're all so insecure. No. I know.
So, I wasn't sure. I didn't know you were born in Queens. Well, that's
yeah.
And how did you? I mean, just start me from the beginning, because even though I know you a long time, I don't know that much about you. So, how do you get into show business? How a guy from Queens becomes an actor? Did you start in high school? Did you start in college?
Yeah, my freshman year in high school, I went to Christ the King High School in Queens. And the first week, you had to sign up for an extracurricular activity. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was really small. My friends were trying out for basketball, whatever. We're walking down the hallway, and I see a sign that says auditions today. I looked inside. The first row was filled with the prettiest girls in the school. So I told my friends, you guys go ahead. I'm going in here. And I auditioned for the play Inherit the Wind. And I got the part, and that was it. From the moment that curtain opened, and I was alone. The play starts. I was alone on stage. I remember the feeling. I was 14. The curtain opens in the big auditorium. I'm alone on the stage as the play opens, and I thought, okay, this might be it. From that moment,
did you play Clarence Darrow? Did you play the?
No. I played. I was 14. I played Howard Blair, who was the young kid that testifies in the trial, the young student. Okay.
But Ray, no experience.
I didn't start with Henry Drummond at 14. Now.
But it was all kids, though, right?
Yeah, it was all kids. But I'll tell you something: the two guys that played Matthew Harrison Brady and Henry Drummond was seniors, and the guy that played, I actually thought he was a teacher because he had a beard. He walked with an attaché case. I thought he was about 45 years old. And the kid that played Henry Drummond, we ended up becoming friends, starting 2 theater companies today. After that, in high school, a summer theater, and then again, once I was out of college, we started a theater group which is still going, called Bond Street Theater Coalition down on the Lower East Side, which is still going strong, 40-something years later. Wow. So it all started from that first play in 1968.
And so before you stepped on, before you were in that play, there was no experience whatsoever. You just jumped into the deep end of the pool.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I studied, then we had a summer theater, it was all kids, but we do 3 or 4 plays a year, and we built the sets and did everything ourselves. We got school to the theater, and we got money from the National Endowment on the Arts. And I mean, we just worked our asses off as kids with no adult supervision. And then I did it through high school, and I did it through college, and did all the plays in college. Even during the summer of college, I went to the neighborhood playhouse my freshman year of college.
Where'd you go to school? Where'd you go to college?
St. John's University. We're all good Italian Catholic boys from Queens go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
And how did you move in from college into like the professional acting world?
Well, that took a long time. Like I said, we had this group called Bond Street Theater Coalition, and we worked out of La Mama. And I was living on the Lower East Side at the time, on East 6th Street. This is 1976, 77, those years. And then I'm also, so we had this theater group, but it was Commedia dell'arte, masks, stuff like that. And then I kind of left, and I started studying with Freddie Karaman and Win Handman at that period of time, with Marianne Leone, who played your mother. We were in class.
She was there in your class? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
we were good friends in 1978, I think it was. Yeah,
Wow.
that's how far back we go. And I was working in a liquor store on 3rd Avenue and 15th Street, which was for 8 years, from 72 to 80. And it was really crazy there at that period of time. I watched them film Taxi Driver at the Variety Arts Theater directly across the street from the liquor store. And my walk home, I'd go down 13th Street, right past where Harvey Keitel was in the doorway. That was my walk home. And they didn't have to dress those streets at all in those days for that movie. That's what it was. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So,
what was the first movie you ever did?
Oh, the first thing, it was a TV movie called Muggable Mary with Karen Valentine. I read for a part about 5 or 6 times for kind of a bigger part, because in those days they do movies of the week, and then those would be pilots for a series. That's the way they did them in those days. So I auditioned for a regular series part. I didn't get it. And then they said, well, we have another part for you. I said, oh, great, send me the script. And they said, well, we could just give you your line over the phone. So I thought I was going to have
a Karen Valentine.
With Karen Valentine. And you know who got the part that I was looking for? I always remember the name, Dan Lauria, who now, of course, has been my best friend for years. And we've done theater together. We just did a play in New York 2 years ago that he wrote. So, but my line was, hey, you can't park your car there. But if you see it, this is what you see. Hey, you can't park your car there. I turned it into a bit of
very good.
A monologue. Yeah, well, you gotta
Karen Valentine was a big TV star back then. Very big.
Yes, Room 222. Well, I imagined that I had this scene with her, and I'd probably end up having lunch with her. It turns out that they had a stunt double drive her car up, and I just say it to the window. I never even met her. So that was.
Was that LA or New York?
No, that was New York. That was actually on First Avenue at a hospital like in the 30s. I actually walked to my first job from East 6th Street.
Oh.
Yeah. Then I moved out. I moved out to LA years later, like in the early 80s. So,
and you're still in LA.
Yeah.
I'm still in LA.
Ray, so then you were on Dynasty was a big show for you.
It was, but you know, I had done LA Law. I had an arc on LA Law before that, and that kind of broke things open for me quite a bit. Because it was kind of high profile. LA Law was like the #1 show at the time, and I had kind of an interesting arc. And so much came from that one job, because that was a Stephen Bochco project. And David Kelly was a writer, and then he was the writer on The Practice, and ended up doing 6 seasons on The Practice. So it all kind of came from that one job. But yeah, Dynasty was right after LA Law.
How was that? That was a big show at the time.
Well, no, I was on, they brought Dynasty, this was the last season, so it was pretty much a dying show. So they brought me in as to try to kind of spice it up. I wasn't the type of character that was normally on Dynasty. You know, those were all the glitzy people, and I was a Philadelphia detective that moved to wherever this was in Colorado. So I was on it for, 1 season, but it was a big deal. For me, my first series, Ray, I had a lot of love scenes. I was shirtless,
Did you have one with Joan? Is Joan Collins on that show? Was that Joan Collins?
Yes, I had several scenes with Joan Collins, but I was the love interest of her boyfriend, of her daughter, Emma Sams. So I had a Fallon. So I
thought maybe you got a shot to shtup Joan Collins.
I never shtupped. I had scenes with her, but there was no shtupping.
Wow. Yeah. That would have been big. She's an icon. That would have been big.
She is an icon. I've worked with some icons. Michael and I worked with Ben Kingsley and Lauren Bacall.
That was
right?
a lot of fun. Yes, we
That was a
did.
lot of fun.
Without a doubt.
Well, that's the nature. That's the weird thing about this business. You can do TV and work with some of your idols and icons like Ben. I did. You want to know how I got on The Sopranos? Is that your next question? Because
That was going to be one of them.
Well, you tell
We
us.
were going to get there eventually.
well, in 1991, I auditioned for this show, a short-lived show called Pros and Cons, starring Richard Crenna and James Earl Jones. So I had about 5 auditions for a guest star part, and I ended up getting it. And it was playing a really obnoxious, smart aleck stand-up comic who goes on hires them for his private investigators to be like his bodyguards. Richard Crenna and James Earl Jones and me, like a little road picture. But it was written by this guy. It was his first TV assignment, Frank Renzulli. So Frank writes that, and then we get on. I'm basically playing him in this show. And then he writes a pilot after that, and he pretty much writes it for me with the same producers called The Great Defender. From Fade In, he was thinking, this is for Ray, this is for Ray. I go to the network, I test, I don't get it. Michael Rispoli got it. So
I auditioned for that.
Did you?
For a role in the pilot, not for the lead. No.
Yeah. So I was ready to give up the business after I didn't get that because I thought, it's written for me. You don't get it. How could this be?
Did it go, that show? Did they make it?
They did about 6. They did about 6 episodes. That's it. But because of that, because of Pros and Cons with James Earl Jones, Frankie had shown that episode to Terry Winter. So then they keep pitching me. Terry kept throwing my name in the mix for The Sopranos. And finally, the first part I read for was the guy that does the intervention for you, Michael. That was it.
That Elias Koteas played that part.
Yeah.
So that was the first one?
And I didn't get it, and I thought, that's it. And they said, no, but they really like you. They're thinking about you for something in the future, maybe. And I thought, yeah, how many times have you heard that? Seriously.
Sure.
We like you, but maybe. And then 2 weeks later, they said, this is part Little Carmine. David Chase wants you to read for. And I said, I read the breakdown. It said Little Carmine, anything but little, upwards of 350 pounds, sweating profusely with a twitching eye or something. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to get this. But I put myself on tape out here on VHS. Then I had to run it to FedEx because in those days you had to FedEx the tape there by 4:30. And I got the part. And here we are.
And they were looking for a big guy originally.
A big guy sweating, and in my audition, I thought, I'm not going to get this. Let me do something. So I said Versailles in my audition. Instead.
So that wasn't in the script?
No, it was written as Versailles. Yeah, as Versailles. And I said Versailles. I just thought.
Because that became a thing.
Well,
that became a thing for Little Carmine.
They said he was, he thinks he's smarter than he is. That was kind of in the breakdown. So that was the clue they gave. They probably already had that going on. But that's the shot I took. And
well, he was a little bit of influenced by George W. Bush. You know that, right?
I do know that because after 2
Little
episodes,
Carmine.
A lot of people don't. But after the second, beginning of season 5, when they made me a regular, I went to wardrobe and Juliet had my clothes laid out and there were cowboy boots and a cowboy belt and a shirt with snap buttons. Yeah. And I'm like, what's this about? And they said, David just wants you to wear, and they never show it. I mean, you see the boots occasionally, you see the belt, very subtle. But some of my lines were direct quotes, like historically speaking, historical changes have come out of war, or the question is, will I be successful as a boss like my dad was, and I will be even more so, but until I am, it's going to be hard to verify that I think I'll be more effective. Turns out that was a direct quote, but in relation to
that was a W quote.
Now, when you got on the show, Ray, did you know any of the other actors? I mean, because when I came on, I knew no one. Did you know anybody?
No, I felt the same way. I heard Max say that the other day, that you feel like a little bit of a fish out of water. Me coming from LA all those years, I didn't know a lot of these New York guys. But I had taken over Joey Pants in 1986 in the Italian-American Reconciliation by John Patrick Shanley, the world premiere. I took over that play for Joey Pants when he went to do Midnight Run, and Patty Darbanville was in it. So I knew Patty and I knew Joey, but he was already dead, and Patty died. I had done a play with David Proval in the early 80s out here, written by Michael Gatzo. We kind of workshopped the play, but David was also gone on the show by then. So no, I really didn't. I knew Patty a little bit, but that was about it. And then Marianne.
What was
eventually?
What was the first scene you did? Remember?
I was trying to remember, but I remember what was interesting is since I was cast out here, I really never met anybody at all. I had never met any casting directors, any directors, producers, anybody. And my first big scene was with Jimmy down at the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami. So my first big scene was that sit down, and we had to shoot after the restaurant was closed, and we're all staying in the hotel like we did in L.A. We stayed in the same hotel where we were shooting, but we had to wait until like midnight to start shooting. And I'd met Jimmy briefly, and I couldn't sleep the night before. I have this nightmare that I say my first line, and Jimmy says, "Well, that's not your line." So we go to sit down, first rehearsal. We shake across the table. I deliver my first line, which was my audition scene. So I felt pretty confident because I'd done it enough times. And I deliver my first line, and Jimmy goes, "That's not your line." They had done a rewrite and never sent me the new pages. So it wasn't a complete rewrite, but some of the words were different. He just handed me the sides, and I kind of looked at it and said, "Okay, let's go." And then that was it. But he was, you guys know what it's like. I had I remember Max, I watched Max's the other day he only had one scene with Jimmy. You know how fortunate I was. I had some, like you guys did, one-on-one scenes with Jimmy. And that being my introduction was pretty amazing because he was such an easy actor to work off,
Oh yeah.
Oh, 100%.
He was rooting for you the whole way.
Mm-hmm.
He's rooting for who he's working with. He want
When you got that part, were you offered several episodes, or was it first just one episode, or how was it?
I think they said it'll probably be 2 episodes with a possibility it could come back. That was just going to be those 2 episodes where I meet him, and then I have the scene with my father on the golf course with Johnny Sack.
On golf course,
and those were the only 2 that I was guaranteed, and then they made me a regular in the next season. So. And I got all that stuff with Frankie Valli and all that stuff, and then eventually with you, Michael.
Yeah, that was that's a testament to you. If they didn't like you, they would not bring you back. That's for sure, without a doubt.
That's right. And
but you brought him to that role. That role was very specific. It's like he's not a thug. He's not a tough guy. He's educated. He's not as smart as he thinks he is, but he's aspiring to something cultured and intellectual almost, and it's it's very specific and really fun. It's a fun character. I thought it was great,
and he does grow too, because at the end he really learns how to find happiness, and even tells Tony in that big scene that Terry Winter wrote at the golf course about it's not about being boss, it's about being happy, And I think that resonated with Tony too. That was kind of the big moment. Right. But in the early years, Little Carmine wanted to be boss, but then he came to realize, being happy might be a little bit more important.
That's actually smarter than anybody. Nobody else realizes that, and that's the fucking problem with in life too.
Yeah, it is. And you see it on Jimmy's face, Tony in that scene when he says that his wife doesn't want him to be the youngest widow on Long Island. He just wants to be happy with his family, and it kind of registers with Tony. And I think you almost see it in that very last scene too, when he's with his family. They make a reference to remembering the happy moments that you have, and not just about what you're trying to do.
All right.
So,
were you like the rest of us? Were you afraid of getting whacked? Or you?
Always. I mean, no. At a table read, you turn the pages like. You're always scared. You're always. Did you wind up moving to New York? Did you move, or you commuted? That's a funny story. When they made me a regular, they said I have to move to New York. The first season I was a regular, they were flying me back and forth and putting me up at some place on the West Side. And then they said I had to move there. So they said we were going to start April 15th. So I found an apartment, way more money than I should have been spending on the Upper West Side. Then they said, well, we're not going to start till May 15th. No, we're going to start. So now I'm already into a couple of months rent, still living, having a place out in LA. And I don't work. So then they start shooting, and I'm not in the first episode. I'm not working at all. It's the hottest summer in years. So finally, I get a call from Eileen. Well, they finally wrote a nice episode for you. It shoots in L.A. So after sitting in New York for all those months, they had to fly me out to Santa Monica. And I was living in Malibu at the time, just a few miles away, staying in a hotel. So after all those months in New York, my first big episode that year was with Michael in L.A. So.
That's the way it works, right, Michael?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way it works.
That's the way it works. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
You can't make plans. You just got to go with the flow.
Well, even
never
the year
know.
I was flying back and forth, I remember getting on a plane and landing, and I turned on my phone when I landed. They said, "Don't come. We changed the schedule." Right? It's just as I opened my phone in New York, and I just flown across the country. They said, "But we're not going to do that scene now." So I'm like, all right.
Yeah, that happened a lot. That happened a lot. Yeah. Tell me about Wienerville. We've talked about it. Now, there might be Wienerville. Michael never heard of Wienerville. Tell me all about Wienerville.
If they did a Venn diagram of Wienerville and Sopranos fans, how many people you think? I don't know.
You'll be surprised. We have a lot younger fans now, Ray.
That's true. Well, I told you, I had that theater group, the Bond Street Theater Coalition, back in the 70s. And at one point I had left, but they brought this guy in, Mark Wiener, who was a mime, a street mime, into the show. And they asked me to come back and direct the show. And I thought that this guy had something special. So I started writing for him and brought his act into the clubs. And I wrote a lot of his stand-up act when he started doing the clubs. So then he got this show on Nickelodeon called Wienerville, and he had somebody else writing it, and it wasn't clicking. So they called me to come in and take over as head writer and direct. So I did 2 seasons as head writer and directing of all the roll-ins on Wienerville in the 90s.
And it was a huge show because my daughter watched it. And my daughter watched it when she was a kid, my older daughter. And then it was very, very popular. And then he just walked away? What happened?
No, I don't know what happened. I can't even remember why.
I thought he just didn't want to do it anymore, Mark Wiener.
No, I think he would have very much wanted to do it. Yeah, because I think he would have. I don't remember exactly why. It was hard to shoot. They were not, we would do 5 episodes a day in front of a live audience.
Wow.
He just, the capacity to get all that dialogue out in all those episodes in one day was very taxing.
Well, if you're
go ahead.
If you're a Wienerville fan, let's hear from you. We like to hear from you. I bet you there's more than you think.
Well, I did a couple of the puppets too. The puppet voice.
Did you?
Louis, I played Louis the dry cleaner.
That's hilarious.
So I got that going for me.
What did you do? How did you find Little Carmine? What was your way into that role? Like, how did you find him, the character?
Well, when I found that moment in the audition, I did a thing. It was the Versailles thing, saying Versailles. And then when I said he's a bit of a poseur, if you ask me, I did a thing with my head. And I remember Terry Winter told me the first time I met him that when they were watching my audition, David saw me do this thing with my neck, and he said, "That's the guy." So I kind of felt that he's calling Tony a poseur, but he's a pretty much of a poseur himself. But then I came with the idea that he thinks he's Michael Corleone, but he's Fredo. And that was kind of, and then I just believed everything, then I just believed all the writing, everything that he said. I just chose to really believe every misspoken word and every malaprop and any convoluted thought that he has, just believe it 100%. And then I just let the writing take me, you just let the writing take you, and you work off somebody like Jimmy or Michael, and your job is done as far as I see it. So
you guys worked with Ben Kingsley and Lauren Bacall. What was that like? I mean, did you call him Sir Ben? Michael didn't, did you?
Yeah, we called him Sir Ben. We were warned that it might be difficult, but I thought he was warm.
I don't think that's true. I mean, everyone always says you got to say that. I don't think that's true. I don't think he demands that, or I don't know if that's so true.
Well, we found out that it's not true because
it's not.
He
true,
was I remember when we were just sitting around by the pool, we were just three guys sitting around by the pool waiting for those shots. I mean, we just had a lot of fun. I remember walking down the hallway before we go in. He's massaging my shoulder, standing behind. You know, it was nothing like you thought it was going to be. It was just another actor having fun, and I love those scenes.
Yeah. And he certainly had a sense of humor about himself. He's playing himself kind of like, you know what I mean? Which was kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of like a, douchebag.
Don't we call him Sir Ben fucking Kingsley at some point? You know,
like that.
I think, no, he was fine. He was great. He was great to work with. None of the nonsense that you might have thought you'd have to deal with.
He was a good sport. We had a lot of fun with him. And the same with Lauren Bacall, who was just down to do. I knew her a little bit from Ready to Wear, the Altman movie that shot in Paris, because I was on the set of that. My ex-girlfriend was in it, and I was in Paris for weeks, so we went out to dinner a bunch of times, a bunch of the cast, so I got to I knew her a little bit, but I never acted with her. But just being with someone like that, a legend, just a connection to.
Well, and the beauty is when there's a shot where you and I first see her, I think that's the least bit of acting you and I ever did. I think we really were just like, there's Lauren Bacall. It's probably our most honest moments in the show. But I remember running into her in the lobby the day before we shot, and I introduced myself, and this is what she said. Is this the ugliest fucking hotel you've ever seen? That was the first with the little dog under her arm. Remember that little puppy on exactly. Dog? That was the first thing she said to me when I introduced myself, and I just thought, "Oh, this is going to be fun." This is going to be
Did you work with Schirripa a lot? Did Little Carmine and Paulie work much?
Nope. And I had in my contract to work with him, unlike with you.
I'm sure you did, Ray. I'm sure you fucking did, Ray.
But no, at the premiere, right? He was in that scene? But that was with a lot of people when we had the premiere of the movie.
That everybody was there. I mean, that was a huge shoot. Remember, because of like hundreds of extras, and every regular was on there.
Where did we shoot that? Didn't we shoot that in Chelsea or for Broadway or something?
No, I think on Broadway.
Broadway, like 14th Street or something.
Yeah. Union Square.
Yeah, we were all there.
Crazy. And then we had the party up at the Gansevoort, up at the roof.
Yeah.
At the hotel.
With Daniel Baldwin, which was a lot of fun. Those scenes, all that stuff was hilarious. Anytime you get to be a fish out of water, playing a wise guy is really fun. Yeah.
Well, I have to say,
hilarious.
I don't know if everybody's watched the making of Cleaver, the thing we did. Remember they said, just come sit in these chairs, and they interviewed us in character for the behind the scenes of the making of Cleaver.
Where is that?
Oh, well, you could find it anywhere. It's on YouTube. It's hysterical. And we finish each other's sentences. And then there's a guy that played the director, like Yam, I can't remember his real name, who played along with us so beautifully. And that was all, you and I didn't prepare anything. We just sat and they said, stay in character, like we were really shooting the movie. And there's some real beautiful stuff that happens in there. That's when I knew, okay, we really do know these guys. We know these characters, because that was a lot of fun. At one point I said, can I get some water here? I asked a PA for some water, and if you watch, it's Alan Taylor comes over and brings us some,
that's hilarious.
some water.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, you have to see it, Mike. I'll send it to you. I think I'll send it to you. It's great. It's really, you can just Google Making Cleaver. It's really funny. People should watch it. That was fun.
You know what else I did? I did it for HBO, had some kind of, I guess it was like an online digital campaign, and they had me. I actually directed a commercial for Vesuvio starring Artie and Adriana. It was kind of just the three of us. We had maybe like a camera person. We wrote, I guess David wrote this commercial, and it was so ridiculous. I could barely shoot it because we couldn't stop laughing so much. I don't know where that is, because it's kind of hilarious.
Well, we did a bunch of those things. They were these little clips, and I did one with Aida, with Janice. And there was something, we never saw them. There was something with the camera. I don't know if there was something with the lens, but that whole thing got wiped out. We all did these little, whatever you want to call them, 3-minute things.
What was yours?
Pieces. Mine was me and Janice. I don't really remember laying on the bed, sitting on the bed. There was something like that, looking out a window. I also did one with Dominic. I was looking all around for a house plant for a bug in the house. I was looking through everything. He was yelling at me. I never saw it. That's somewhere, that stuff. I don't know. Yeah. He kept yelling at me. Wow. Did you find it? And I'm looking around. It's got to be here somewhere.
Yeah, I got to see that.
Ray, tell me about the movie, which was one shot. The whole movie was one single shot.
Yeah. I had done a couple of. I was a recurring role on the show called In Plain Sight, and flying down to Albuquerque to shoot it was another guest star actor. We were just chatting, and he's also a director. And we kind of hung out because there was nothing to do in Albuquerque. And then he said, I have an idea for a movie. I just want to write a movie where we shoot the whole thing in one shot. And he knew he came to see me in a play I did in Pasadena. So he knew I had the chops that I could do an hour and a half, And so he wrote this movie called Somebody Marry Me, where it takes place in real time, one shot, no cuts, no fake edits, where we go to 4 locations, 15 other actors, and the camera gets I drive a truck, camera gets in the truck with me, I drive in real traffic, and we only got one take of it, and that's the movie. 98 minutes.
One camera.
Cut. One camera, no cuts. There's not, everybody always says, yeah, but what about the use a second? No. And there was one actor, an older actor, I won't mention any name, but he never got the idea because he's in the beginning and the end. And my first scene with him, I walk in, I'm doing my lines, and he says, line. And I was like, no, you can't ask for line. It's one shot. So
you can improv, but you can't, yeah.
There's no cuts. Okay, so that happened like twice. And now through the whole movie, when we're finally doing it, I realize I have another scene with him at the end. And I'm such a nervous wreck because now I've driven back and forth in this truck in real traffic, acted with, police car pulls me over. Everything was really timed. And I'm thinking, if he screws up in this very last scene, I don't know. So the director just says, just plow through it. Whatever he says, just keep going, keep going. So we only got one take of the movie, and that's the one you see.
And how did it turn out? How is it?
It's a sweet movie. I mean, there were challenges to it, but we did it. I mean, when he said cut, people started crying because you can't imagine, even when you do a long oneer, right? A walk and talk that's 2 pages, you're a nervous wreck, especially if you're the guy that has to come in for the last line. It's like jumping on a moving train, But when you have
and you only did it once?
Well, we had 2 takes that were busted by that actor. Then the third take, we got about 70 minutes in, and the camera froze. The memory card filled up. And all of a sudden, I'm in one of the last scenes, and I see the cameraman raise the camera and drop his head. And I was just like, I can't believe it. Then it starts to rain, and then we break for lunch and say, look, before it gets dark, we have one more shot at this because we only have the location for one day. That's all I could afford. So at 3:30, we started another take, and you have to reset every prop. You have to reset every actor, police car, everybody at all the other houses, because I drive to 2 different houses. Have to reset everything, and we get one. We only did it once, ever, and that's the movie.
Did you rehearse it? Did you rehearse it very meticulously?
No, we rehearsed it on a stage, on a little tiny theater with chairs, and saying, okay, you're driving, so I'm driving like this. But now we're doing it, I'm driving in real traffic. We didn't have the money. They're not stopping traffic. I'm stopping at red lights, and all of a sudden it's the longest red light in LA, so I have to just start ad-libbing because there was somebody in the car with me. And I'd get in the truck. I have a bagel truck was the storyline. And I'd get in and I'd have to listen to make sure the sound guys and the cameraman and everybody until the door closes, start the truck and drive. So there was all this kind of.
I tell you, I'm going to see that. I'm going to check that out. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's around. I think it's on iTunes or something. Had we more time and maybe just a little bit more money. The worst part of that, I'm going to blame Matt Weiner for this. It's just to bring things around. I had just done an episode of Mad Men. I did like 3 episodes of Mad Men. So I have the stupidest haircut for this movie, and I blame Matt for that. So if the movie didn't make it.
Well, Matt's going to be on soon. Matt's going to come on soon. We'll let him know.
Don't mention that because he's still producing shit. So tell him how much I love that haircut.
Will do.
Ray, thank you so much, man. I couldn't thank you enough. It's great seeing you.
I hope to
stay
see you
well.
guys in the flesh someday soon, which would be nice. I like
Yeah,
the beard,
really.
Michael.
You too. You too.
Really,
Yeah, same
thank
here,
you.
man. I
Thank
hope
you.
to see you soon.
Really
All the best, buddy.
appreciate it. You take
Thanks
care,
for
man.
coming
See you
on.
guys.
Thank you very
My
much.
pleasure, man.
All right.
I like that idea. Do you like that one shot idea?
It's very cool. That's not easy to pull off. That's very
I
hard.
would like. We should try that.
We should try it. We kind of do that. Don't we do that here?
We're doing that now. One continuous
I think
shot.
So.
We don't
Sure,
stop.
We don't cut.
I tell you what, and I'm not bullshitting here. I like Ray Abruzzo a lot. He's a good man, and a terrific actor, and a lot of fun. Always upbeat. Always fun to be around.
Yeah. And he did a lot, and he made that character into something special. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, The Sopranos was all about finding the right you can't have too many people kind of doing the same vibe. You know what I mean? And his character had its own very specific thing. He couldn't come on and just be a tough guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He had to be,
Something
and
different.
he made it very special. Yeah.
I got to tell you what, if I wasn't already Bobby Bacala, I could have auditioned for the fat, sweaty, twitchy eye guy.
Little Carmine, maybe.
Look.
But
Do I look
That's
like
good.
a fat, twitchy guy?
you got the twitchy part.
Let's take a break. We'll be
Let's
back.
take a break. We'll be right back.
All right, we're back. I really enjoyed talking to Ray Abruzzo, I'll tell you that.
Yes, me too.
This is a great episode. Christopher, written by Christopher or Michael Imperioli, and the story was by Maria Lorino. Now, what does
Maria
that mean?
Lorino's
Explain to us.
Okay. Maria Lorino is a journalist and an author. All right. So she was a journalist for the Village Voice. She was actually a speechwriter for David Dinkins. She was involved in politics in New York. She's written for the New York Times. She also wrote a bestseller about ethnic identity among Italian Americans called Were You Always Italian? So I don't remember specifically how this came about, but I believe she spoke to David about Italian identity in relation to Columbus. And she didn't write the script, but her idea was, what if these guys protest this parade? Part of the inspiration for this episode was we all, especially David, because it was his baby, The Sopranos, we took a lot of heat from this, these various Italian American anti-defamation people, a lot of whom never watched the show.
Correct.
About negative portrayals and stereotypes and bullshit. And part of it was part of this episode was our way of kind of sticking it up their asses, to be honest.
Yeah.
As seen later on when they all get into that big fight, it's a weird episode because it's kind of a flight of fancy. It's very satirical, which was the challenge of it to make it real, because part of it is that would these guys really be that passionate about this cause? You know what I mean? I mean, and it's very satirical. It gets kind of ridiculous, and how consumed they get by this and how not consumed they get by it. So it was a specific episode in tone for a lot of it.
But what I hear you, and I cut you off, and I apologize, but this mirrors real life, as we'll talk about later with Joe Colombo.
Yes,
Joe
it does.
Colombo,
Yes,
who
it
was a
does.
big mob boss and the head of the Colombo family, one of the 5 families. He was passionate as Silvio, if not more. So
But
it's
he
not
started
that,
the first anti-Italian American defamation
correct.
league, I think.
And so it's not that out of this world. It's not
No.
out of realism, because he was one, and I'm sure there were others that really felt passionate about this. So
He did, but also when he did that, it was you have to remember it was a different time. When I met Andrew Cuomo, when I got cast to play Andrew Cuomo in Escape to Dannemora, right? So, and they arranged it so I could go meet him, hang out with him, and he was very, gave me a lot of time, was very gracious. But one of the first things he said was, my father didn't watch this, The Godfather. He's talking about Mario Cuomo, who was a great governor, beloved governor in New York. And I never watched The Sopranos. And, my father was very conscious of Italian-American stereotypes. And I said, I know where you're going. I said, A, you should watch The Sopranos because it's a great work of art. And it raised it changed the course of television, raised the bar in television. I said, B, what your father was addressing was his father came up in a very different time when Italian-Americans had not completely assimilated into basically, white American culture. There still were a lot of hurdles for them to get over. And by the time The Sopranos came around, that was not the case.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Yeah. We were not being discriminated against. We were not being, shut out of certain jobs and certain kind of, sectors of society. And he heard, I don't know if he actually went back and watched The Sopranos, but I think he heard what I said. And I said, we should be proud that it was Italians that made The Sopranos, which is this great work of art that completely changed the landscape of television.
Well, which is a great way of thinking about it and thinking of it. I met Andrew Cuomo years ago at a premiere, and I was introduced to him, and he, barely shook my hand. And then I saw him later at a thing for Pete Hamill, and he couldn't have been nicer. It's like we were best friends. So I don't know what had changed in between, but like you said, a lot of people haven't seen this, and they have an opinion of it. As we all do, we judge something that we don't know really what it is. But, I don't like that. I don't like that. I've told you stories. I don't like that show. Have you seen it? No, but I heard,
But the proof to me is in the pudding because for the most part, and of course you can never speak to for everybody. For the most part, The Sopranos is very beloved among Italian Americans. Very much so. I mean, I would overwhelmingly, it's not only liked, but really loved and passionate.
And they're very proud of it.
And very proud of it. And most people, like I said, Sopranos was, late 20th century, early 21st century. People have gotten over a lot of those stereotypes and narrow ways of thinking. And most people who watch it understand that not all Italians are gangsters, and they know that, and that it does not meant to represent, everybody in the entire Italian-American experience.
Well, I mean, if you think that every Italian or Italian-American is in the mob, shame on you. That's like saying every rapper is in a gang or every this is that. I mean, that's just pure ignorance, So you would hope that people could see beyond that, and I think it's gotten better. We are talking about something almost 20 years ago. This aired in September 29th, 2002.
Right, and 2 weeks before Columbus Day. And then what happened was, after this aired, Dominic and Lorraine were supposed to march in the Columbus Day Parade in New York City, and they were both banned from marching in the parade, despite having received an invitation to participate from Mayor Michael Bloomberg. And Bloomberg was so pissed off, he bailed on the parade and took them out to lunch.
But who exactly banned them? The parade themselves? Italian-American League?
I would assume. I guess it's, I don't know, whoever runs the parade. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, that Bill Fugazi.
Columbia Association? I'm not really sure.
You know Bill Fugazi?
I don't.
Okay, Bill Fugazi.
Is that a real name?
That's
Bill
a real
Fugazi?
name. Yeah, I have Bill Fugazi. Yeah, I believe they spelt it different, but he was Italian-American, very powerful New York businessman. Among other things, I believe he owned Fugazi
car dealership,
Fugazi limousines, also limousine company,
and I think Cadillac dealership, if I'm not mistaken.
And then it became.
Now I heard the name in relation to the caddy. I didn't know his first name.
So. Then it became I think he may have been in charge of that, or certainly one of the directors. He was a very powerful swinging dick here in New York City back then.
He was a what? A powerful what?
Swinging dick. You know what a swinging dick is?
Now I do.
Yeah. So he was a powerful swinging dick.
I've actually never heard that used. That's.
There you go. Hanging with me, you learn something every day. And it's even like, when they say this watch is a Fugazi, that has to do with Bill Fugazi, who wind up going to jail. I'm not sure exactly whether it was income tax or something. He went to jail, this guy. He was good friends with Steinbrenner.
That's where the word comes from?
Yeah, Fugazi.
Comes from his name?
This is a Fugazi. That watch is a Fugazi. Let me see your ring. It's a Fugazi.
Wow.
Now, Andy.
What does this have to do with Columbus?
I'm going to tell you. Andy, look up Bill Fugazi and tell me what he went to jail for. He was involved. It might have been him. He was very against the Sopranos and this whole thing. I believe he was involved in that Italian-American anti-defamation stuff later on. He was against all negative things Italian, also he perceived. And we were at Elaine's one night, myself, Federico, maybe Vince Curatola, having dinner, and he sent us a bottle of wine. And we were with someone else, a friend of Federico's, and we refused it, and then Federico sent him a bottle of wine, then sent him another bottle of wine, like a big fuck you. We don't want yours, but here. I swear to God. And that's a true story, and that's what that's about. Once again, you're calling the kettle black, and you're, a bad guy. We've saw that before with the politician from New Jersey that wouldn't let us shoot in the Pine Barrens. Remember? That, that was another thing, and that's something with Bill Fugazi. So that's what the background of that is, and that's what it means, a Fugazi, yeah. It actually became part of the English, his last name became part of the English language. Perjury during bankruptcy. He perjured himself. This holier-than-thou guy that was against this, he was behind not allowing these guys in the parade.
So the moral of the story is never go against the Sopranos.
There you go. I'm with you. Tim Van Patten directed this, the 8th of his 20 episodes. We start out, I love the opening shot from the roof, from overhead. You see all the guys sitting in front of the pork store drinking espresso. They're playing a game with license plates for money. Right. Massachusetts, Connecticut. They're playing a game for, whatever, a few bucks.
And they spend a lot of time doing stuff like this, kind of hanging around. They talk about war is often long stretches of nothing happening, punctuated by, moments of, really high stakes and danger. And it's kind of like these guys. There's long stretches where they don't do a whole lot of anything.
No, they're hanging around. They get sandwiches. They have espresso. Tony drinks a lot. I mean, in the middle of the day, he likes having a few scotches, beers. I mean, they hang around. They just hang.
They talk about current events, opinions,
they know
about
everything
politics.
about everything, right?
They know everything about everything. They gossip a lot. Yeah. A lot of gossip.
And if you are around these guys, which you have been, as I have, this is very true. They kind of know a lot. You'll be surprised of what they know, or they have opinions on.
Opinions,
Bobby's at the table. He reads from the newspaper. The New Jersey Council of Indian Affairs has announced plans to disrupt Monday's Columbus Day Parade in Newark. Silvio is very into this. He wants to hear what Bobby's reading. Furious says, I thought Columbus was the hero of America. He goes on a whole rant about how he doesn't like Columbus, and people from the
Napolitans don't like him because the Southern Italians were looked down upon by the Northerners, and Columbus was from Genoa, which is in the north. Yes.
Christopher says you got to admit they did get massacred, the Indians. It's not like we didn't give them a bunch of shit for it, Silvio says. Land, reservations, now they got the casinos. Bobby
says, I wouldn't mind sitting on my ass all day smoking mushrooms, collecting government checks. They're kind of sitting on their ass all day, which is kind of what they're doing in the scene.
Exactly.
Which is funny, which is kind of funny. Anyway, but
Ralphie's against
Silvio's,
these Indians and the commie fucks. They want to paint Columbus as a slave trader instead of an explorer. You remember that day, right? It was kind of cold out, and I there was a line that when I learned it, I knew I was stumbling. I was having a hard time.
Which line do you remember?
I don't remember the line. I wish I could. But there was a line. It got cut out completely. And I did it a good 10 times, and I kept fucking stumbling on it. It was one of them things that dried up on me. I mean, I was very frustrated. I remember Dan Grimaldi and Bobby Finero trying to help, like I could see the look in their eyes. And then Joey Pants started laughing at me.
He was riding you. Yeah, he was.
Come on, can't you get this right? Can't you get it right? And it was making it worse. I was really mad at myself because I was very frustrated.
You were prepared, like you always prepare, but it just something about the line.
About the one line.
And it happens sometimes.
It happens.
Sometimes it's the way it's worded. Sometimes it's where it comes in the scene. It's hard to explain. You never know, but there's times when there's something that you just can't get it in your head. It happens.
It happened to me a couple of weeks ago on Blue Bloods. I got the whole thing down. There's one line I can't get it. I don't know why. What? Sometimes also when you only have a few lines, it's harder than having a whole paragraph.
It's harder. Right? Yeah.
So this was one line, and everything else was fine. And Joey starts breaking my balls, and usually I wouldn't give a fuck, but I was fucking
You
pissed.
might laugh, but you got pissed off.
I was pissed
really
off.
Pissed. I remember.
I don't know if I threw a chair at him or got up.
You were fucking pissed off. He was too much. He was going over the line. It
wasn't helping me. Like I said, everybody else was rooting for me. They, because that could be me. But Joey was breaking my balls. And what's funny is I remember David saying at some point, I know you and Joey don't get along. I get along just fine with him. We had one little speed bump, but otherwise, I like Joey.
Is Tony Soprano in this scene?
No.
Is Jim in this scene? No. Okay.
No. It's Vito. He's, I think, taking the sun with the sun visor.
It's Vito. It's Patsy, Furio, me and you, and Silvio.
Yeah. Great scene. I love that overhead shot. And then there's another shot. It pulls back, and you see everybody just sitting there. It's really good. We're in the gym. Carmela, Rosalie, Gabriella, Adriana, Karen, they're working out. Furio just bought himself a little house, Carmela says. I'm surprised nobody snapped him up yet. Adriana says he should lose the ponytail. Rose says that's his trademark. Adriana says Sandy says it looks like a dick coming out of his head.
It's a very, very funny line.
And Carmela,
I think it's hilarious.
Carmela says, what a two-face. She's supposed to be his friend. Carmela, you could tell, is becoming very fond of Furio. Kind of the beginning,
she's becoming fond. Yeah, she's definitely becoming fond of him, and it's kind of obvious.
She's treated like the godmother. Among these girls, she's the boss, right? Among the mob wives here, she's the boss.
She's the boss, and you'll see that a little bit later. There's a very specific moment of that. The music is at U2, Elevation, that's playing there. Our friends. U2, Steve and I got to hang out with U2 backstage at the Garden once. I put in St. Peter and Paul Church, which was in Mount Vernon. I think they changed the name of it. My father went there for many years as a parishioner, but I just threw that in as a thing. They talk about the church luncheon. It's on Italian American pride and women. And is a professor from Montclair State, which is where Carmela went to college as well.
Did not graduate, by the way.
Did not graduate, yeah.
Janice's bedroom. Ralph and Janice. Janice is using a vibrator up Ralphie's butt.
And
Janice,
he's snorting poppers, amyl nitrate, while
and
that's happening.
she's talking dirty. Work that ass, mama's little hoo-ah, she says.
They're role playing. She's a pimp and he's a hooker. That's what they're doing basically. And
Now let me ask you something.
300. Yeah.
Have you ever let anyone shove a vibrator up your ass?
Besides you, no, I haven't.
I'm being serious. I'm asking you a question. It's me and you talking.
No, it's not me and you talking. It's a couple of 100,000 people. No, what are you talking? You think everything in the script is something I've done? Like, have I shot people and shot heroin in my arms? And
Listen,
just because you see it here, I've done it. No. That makes no sense.
All I did is you get all fucking.
Jeez,
man,
you're putting me on the spot.
Listen,
it's
it
a
would
little
be fine.
Inappropriate.
Listen, it would be fine with me if you did. I don't care. I'm just asking a question. I don't care what you do in bed.
The truth is, no, I don't. I had to do a lot of research to figure out something very specific.
I mean, you're getting very touchy.
The whole thing was to establish Ralph as a sexual deviant, right? So we had to kind of come up with something that's very transgressive in their world, right? Because we've already seen Richie hold a gun to her head, and that whole thing, you should be the boss, and this is kind of a little bit of a reversal there with him being, the more submissive partner here. But it was about, establishing him, as someone who has some fetishes, and they're connected to kind of, this degrading behavior or whatever. That was the whole point of the thing.
Okay, listen.
Not everything that I write about is something I've experienced.
Listen, I understand. I wasn't accusing you. I asked you a question.
I have a very vivid imagination.
I didn't accuse you.
Now, I'll ask you the same question.
No, I have not. But if I did, there would be nothing wrong with it. But I have never had anyone shove a dildo in my ass. No.
Not intentionally.
Not ever. Not ever. It's just not my thing. If it was my thing, I would tell you.
Well, how do you know it's not your thing if you haven't done it?
Well, it's not something I want to explore. Okay. The phone rings. It's the Rocky theme. Now, what's the significance of that? It's a theme from Rocky. When Ralphie's phone. Any significance, or he just likes Rocky?
Italian American composer, Italian American, film, basically filmmaker or writer, star. I don't know.
He's talking to Ro, and Janice is still working his butt, the butt while he's talking to her. He said it's okay if we have chicken. It's okay for dinner. While she's got the vibrator going, so that's a little unusual.
Yeah. And she says, "We're so naughty. How can we do this with Ro on the phone? We're so wacky, no regard for nothing." Which is, yeah. I mean, and the vibrator's still going.
Still going. Still going.
It's a pretty crazy scene. I mean, it's really to establish him kind of how, I don't know how you can say that, how, how out there he is.
It's a little different. Ralphie, I heard Ralphie.
She's kind of into it, but she's not. I mean, the assumption is he kind of created this scenario and she's going along with it.
Oh, no, she's into it.
She's
heard
game, but I don't think it was her idea. No.
Yeah. On one take, I heard Ralphie chipped his tooth on it. On one of the takes. Chipped his tooth on the vibrator. No, it's a joke. It's a bad joke. What the fuck?
Really bad joke.
Paulie calls Johnny Sack. Paulie says, thanks for the stamps. He calls collect. He says his name is Walter. And by the way, Walter, if you're still out there, go fuck yourself again.
Is Walter because of walnuts? Wall. I think that.
I guess maybe a little play on words there. Johnny goes, listen. I just want to say, I hope your feelings weren't hurt too bad, and that it never got back to the missus. What are you talking about? Just
and
let
Paulie
it go.
Knows that. That's,
oh yeah.
100%, right?
He's stirring the shit, man. Got a big mouth.
Johnny Sack is in a bar, the Monte Chiaro bar on Mulberry Street, which is actually a place that I've been going to since I was in my, I think late teens. I mean, it's been there forever. I used to go there a lot with friends. Still do. It's a good place. Right on Mulberry. Old school. Still looks like that. And it's always it's one of those places you go there and you'll always wind up meeting people and kind of having a good time. It's
one of the few old time bars. That bar's been there forever.
And
it's
a great
and
spot.
Ever. Old spot. Yeah, good spot.
And it still looks just like it does, in this episode. Go ahead.
Paulie got a really big mouth, and he's a shit stirrer, and he's really stirring it up here. He's trying to get on Johnny's good side, and this is a bad thing to tell somebody that a bunch of guys are laughing and telling a joke about your fat wife. This is
really bad and hypocritical because he's done the same thing.
Correct. Really,
he had the scene. He told 3 jokes about Jenny Sack's weight, so he's stirring it up. Yes, sir.
Let's take a break, and we'll be back.
Okay, we are back. We are in the restaurant. Tony, Johnny Sack, Carmine, Christopher Silvio, and Ralphie dinner. This is Vesuvio, right? Yes. And what has happened is Paulie Walnuts has told Johnny Sack, who's now told Carmine, that Tony made some money off Freeling Housing Avenue real estate deal through the help of Zellman. Carmine's pissed off because they're supposed to share Zellman, then they should share the fruits of whatever comes out of Zellman. There's also issues with the job site that New York controls the labor union, Jersey controls the carpenters, and the carpenters are doing some of the labor, which they shouldn't be doing, which causes New York to not make as much money because they get a bigger percentage on the laborers. That's how this is all divided. Ralph gets really yelled at by Johnny Sack here. So here we know that, Johnny Sack knows exactly what he said. And it's Ralphie's taken a little bit by surprise. He wasn't
nobody else
that.
knows, right? Nobody else knows.
Nobody else knows, yeah. But what does come out here is somebody's talking about Tony's business to Carmine.
Absolutely. Carmine, Johnny's doing all the talking. He's talking for Carmine. Carmine's got his head down and he's eating. Every time they come to agreement, they toast. But really embarrassing when Johnny tells Ralphie, no one's talking to you, He slaps him down in front of everybody, Soprano house, we're in the kitchen. Fiorio and Carmela are having coffee. They're watching the show about the anti-Columbus Day. First of all, the first thing on, it's a Schwab commercial is on TV.
Yeah, it's a doctor. First there's a doctor, and it's like, wouldn't it be great if the person you trusted most was your broker? This is kind of referring to Carmela, and she wants to get the invest the money in the living trust and all that stuff. Fiorio brings over a box of strufoli. You know what that is, right?
Yeah, but usually you only see those around Christmas, right? Around the holidays, strufoli. You don't really see them around the rest of the year. I'm
you see them around the holidays, so sometimes around getting towards the fall or Thanksgiving or something like that. My grandmother used to make those a lot. They're kind of round balls of dough that you fry up, basically, and then you put honey.
Yeah, they're great.
And maybe some, they're really, really good. My grandmother made them really well. My mother makes them, too.
Those are really good.
She makes them really good. But they were always in the house around Thanksgiving or Christmas, especially. Yeah. But you got Montel Williams playing himself. On his own, it's kind of a version of his own show. And, you have Professor Del Redclay, played by Larry Sellers, who is a professor of anthropology at Rutgers University, who's talking about the protest of Columbus. And then Philip Donati, played by Joseph Sakari, who's representing the Italian-American Anti-Defamation League. I guess he's kind of a version of Bill Fugazi there. And it's an argument about, whether or not Columbus should be celebrated as an American hero and the American Pride Parade. Montel's kind of agreeing a little bit with the Italian-American guy, saying, no, we got to kind of get past that and just recognize that this all kind of resulted in America, and America's, kind of progressed and is an economic miracle and blah, blah, blah. And then the guy goes too far and compares his relatives to traveling from Sicily to America, going through the Middle Passage, which is a reference to the slave trade. And
that sets Montel off, yeah.
So what we're setting up here is like, people having very different opinions on, the history of America, the history of oppression, history of genocide. We'll see that later in the scene with Hesh, and people's sensitivities to these, to being a member of a discriminated group, and their sensitivities and lack of.
Yeah,
that's what's happening.
Furio brings Strufoli. They're having a cup of coffee. He's showing pictures of his new house. They are staring into each other's eyes. They are both very smitten with each other. Tony comes down. She says, "What's the matter? You seem a little mush. He says, I'm worried about the trial. My uncle, first time a soprano, is on trial in 16 years. I'll tell you a funny story. Montel used to was married to. Her name was Bambi Jr., Grace Morley, good friend of mine, really nice girl. I've known her forever and ever. She actually auditioned to play Karen.
Really?
My wife on the show. She's an actress. She was in the show Crazy Girls at the Riviera. She was the star attraction. Her mother was Bambi, was a famous burlesque player, and then Bambi Jr. had a famous poster, UNLV basketball. It said Final Four or Bust over here. And really, really nice girl. She was married to Montel. He came into the comedy club years ago, and he was heckling. You're going to think I'm bullshitting. Him and his group, there was 5 or 6 of them, was heckling the comics. Montel Williams was heckling the comics. And I had someone go over, tell him to stop once, twice. I don't believe Grace was there. I think he was waiting for her. And
now, you don't believe in heckling comedians, right?
No, that's a big no-no. That's the worst thing you could do.
Big no-no, huh?
Big no-no. And she and Montel and his group got up and walked out, never said anything. No, heckling a comic is very disrespectful. People think they're helping. I'm helping you. I'm joining the fun.
No.
You're throwing a comic off. You could destroy a guy, and you just ruined the show for everybody. It's never better from a heckler, but they were heckling.
Yeah.
And I saw Montel at the read-through. Either he didn't recognize me or he forgot about that. I don't know.
Maybe he was embarrassed for the heckling incident.
It happened way before, it happened, years before. It had to be 10 years before this, or whatever, 8 years, but Grace Morley's a great person, Bambi Jr. They were married. Courtroom, Junior's trial. Junior picks a really bad time to tell Melvoin. It's getting started. The jury's coming out from the back. The telephone charges on your last bill cost me $40 every time you pick up the phone.
Well, Junior's distracted. He's distracted by, the fucking costs. That the Xeroxing and the phone calls and the postage or whatever the filing. He's really distracted by that. I think Junior pretty much assumes he's going to get off. Because he's spending so much money on this trial. So he kind of assumes but he's really distracted by how much money he's spending. The court clerk is Julie Ross, who was David Chase's assistant before Jason Minter. She was a good friend of ours. The judge, Whitney Runyons, is played by Randy Barbie, who was our first AD for a few episodes.
I did a movie in Atlanta. He was the AD down there. Randy's a nice guy and a good actor.
Really good guy. And did a good job with this. He did a couple episodes. And the prosecutor was somebody who I worked with a bunch of times on The Sopranos. He was our technical advisor. His name is Dan Castleman. He was a Manhattan DA.
30 years.
Actually, he ran the investigative division under Morgenthau. and he was involved in a lot of mob prosecution. So he helped us out a lot in terms of giving us information on how the crimes are structured, how the investigations would happen. What kind of stuff were the mob really into, and how would they deal with an assemblyman? How would they deal with the unions? How did these things operate? So we did have some real inside info, and Dan Castleman, who plays the prosecutor, was worked with us for a number of years on the show.
Yeah, he became the technical
helpful.
advisor towards the end. Next thing,
Yeah,
we're at
he
the
was very
church
helpful.
in the bingo hall. They have a table and table and chairs set up. This is all the girls are there. Gabby and Ro and Carmela and Karen. They're all there, and here's this woman speaking. She's an Italian.
That is
American.
Professor Longo Murphy, but that's played by Roma Mafia, who's someone I've known for many years in the New York theater scene. She was in Nip Tuck. She was also really good in the movie Nick of Time with Johnny Depp, Christopher Walken. She was in Disclosure. She played Michael Douglas's lawyer. She's a fantastic actress. She plays the professor, giving this lecture about, basically about identity as in relation to being an Italian American woman. If they say spaghetti and meatballs, you tell them orecchietta with broccoli rabe. If they say whatever, if they say, crappy wine and stinky cheese, you say Asiago and Barolo. And everyone's agreeing until they say, if they say John Gotti, you say Rudolph Giuliani. And the girls at the table, suddenly this thing is turned against them.
Yeah.
Because it's become an anti-defamation type vibe and, anti-mob vibe, which they get very insulted.
And, people are looking back behind them. Ro gives a woman the finger. The mob wives, I'm going to call them the mob wives, they don't clap. They're not happy. It's quite embarrassing. Yeah. And don't forget, this was put together by freeloader father Phil. The freeloader.
And he's getting very uncomfortable when she starts criticizing the mob. He is not so happy, and he kind of defends them. She says a Princeton study showed 74% of Americans associate Italian Americans with the mafia, and he kind of says, wasn't there another study done that said the exact opposite? He's trying to save a little face because he knows his friends and supporters are mafia wives.
A weird choice by him. I'm very surprised. I mean, she's there to sell a book also, and I would imagine he put the whole thing together. He's the only male there, and
I think he thought it was going to be more about women, because she says America sees us as pizza makers and Mama Leone's. Our grandmother's dressed in black. We're in Moschino and Armani. I think he thought it was going to be more about women and Italian Americans being, escaping the stereotypes of the past, that, we're educated, we're wage earning, we're law abiding or whatever. I don't think he expected it to veer into that anti-mob territory.
For a minute there, I thought possibly he was doing it as a fuck you to Carmela.
No.
I thought for a second. They share a look during this. Carmela, they go outside. Gabby says, I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. I'm going to rip him a new one. And she tells him she's pissed off. I mean, really pissed off. Don't forget who keeps the parish alive year after year. How dare you?
But you notice he's saying is
Carmela.
Outrageous Carm. I'm shocked. It's not just Carm. They're all mob wives.
Yeah.
I mean, they're kind of.
But she's the godmother. She's the boss.
She's the godmother.
So Gabby is going in there protecting the boss. Okay? He's about to eat a cannoli. Because, like I said, he is a freeloader.
He was looking forward to that cannoli.
She calls him well, later on, we'll see when I tell you that.
Where do you like to get cannolis?
Venero's the only place. Venero's not the only place, but Venero's.
Rocco's is very good.
Rocco's on Bleecker Street, but they've had a new change or something there. I don't know if it's the same people.
When?
A while ago. They remodeled the whole store. It's different. Way
They
different.
remodel, but the cannolis are still very good.
Veneros on off of
They
First
fill them
Avenue.
right there in front of you when you're there. They fill the cannoli
So you're
in
saying
front of you when you buy it.
Bracco's better than Veneros.
I like Veneros, but I've liked Rocco's for years. They're really
Veneros, I
good.
mean, it's been there over 100 and something years. Just had their anniversary. I mean, great.
That's on what? Is that 11th Street or
11th and First.
First?
Great
and
old
Rocco's
school
is
place.
Bleecker near Carmine.
Get the stuff to go. There's a cafe in the back. Robert's a good man. That's a good spot there. Columbus Day protest. You got the Italians and Native Americans. Artie, Silvio, Patsy arrived. They're hanging a mannequin of Columbus.
They're doing an effigy of Columbus. Yeah, that's Washington Park in Newark, by the way, the statue, where that statue is. Beppy is there.
Yes. Beppy, who's David's cousin.
Was David's cousin, yes.
David Chase's cousin. You've got Joey the Cop, played by the great comedian Nick DiPaolo. He's there.
Right.
Silvio
Cozy
says,
is also one of the cops, our stunt coordinator. Is one
yes,
of the
I
cops
saw that. That's right.
there.
Silvio says, I won't forget this, Joey. He said they got a permit. They're going back and forth. Seems like the guys they're getting defeated here. The Indians are all over it. One guy throws a bottle, hits little Paulie in the head, hurts him bad. A very funny moment. The other guy throws a smoothie at Artie Bucco's head. Johnny V. Johnny V's all over the place, runs into the car, locks the door behind him. He's got smoothie all over his head, or a big gulp, whatever it is, and very funny, his physical reaction. And he's scared. You know, Artie's not a mob guy, and they arrest Patsy. They arrest Georgie. And it looks like they kind of retreat. They got to retreat.
They retreat. They're outnumbered, and it gets pretty crazy there. Yeah.
The church, Carmela and the friends are leaving. Okay, Gabby says, "What a coward that man is. He was always a lily liver." Did you write that line?
No.
A
Yeah.
lily liver is what? A pussy?
Lily livered, wimpy.
Wimpy.
Cowardly. And then they talk, they're kind of dismissive of Orchetta and Armani and Michelangelo are northern things, and they're southern Italians, and they're kind of dismissing her whole thing. What is really telling here is Ro when she holds the door open for Carmela. She opens the car door for Carmela.
Yeah.
Really making it like Carmela's like,
She's the Tony.
She's the godmother, and she likes it.
Oh, absolutely, she likes it. And when Gabby went in to talk to Father Phil, she says, "Don't forget who keeps this parish alive year after year after year. How dare you, embarrass Calm in front of an outsider?
Right.
The speaker's an outsider. How dare you?
An outsider.
Karen has got the centerpiece. Now, that's a big thing with Italian women. They at every event,
The
don't they take
centerpiece.
the centerpiece?
The center. Who's going to take it? I
Who's
want to
going to take it?
Yeah.
They're at a wedding. You're at a
Flowers.
thing. Who's going to take it? They had a nice centerpiece. It's mine. I'm putting dibs on it. It's meant to be taken most of the time. When we had one of our big premieres at Rockefeller Center, my mother tried to take the centerpiece. It was not meant to be taken. It was like...
It wasn't just a little flower thing.
No, it was heavy, almost like a concrete vase, And I was going, just leave it alone. And she was struggling, and I'm going, leave it alone. Just leave it alone. I'll buy you flowers tomorrow. Just leave it alone. Yeah. Had to have that
Great.
Centerpiece,
She wanted it, yeah.
Hey, that's a big deal.
Big deal.
All right, so Bobby's in his car. He's stuck in traffic. The phone rings. It's Bobby Jr. He says, Mom tried to call you. She wants you to pick up some steaks and eggplants from the store. Bobby not happy about it.
Now, your ringtone is La Donna Mobile, the Giuseppe Verdi opera, the aria from the opera. Yeah.
You put that in?
No.
No.
You put that in? That wasn't you? Wasn't your idea?
Your mother's a real pain in the you-know-what sometimes. Bobby's annoyed. I mean, he's not livid, but he's annoyed. He's pissed. You see a car flipped ahead. Tell your mother thanks when she gets home. Thanks a lot, inconveniencing him. Soprano house, Kamala Rosalie walk in the kitchen. They were just all together.
They were just all together, yeah.
Not long ago, phone rings, Carmela answers. Terrible. Hangs up. Karen had an accident on Pompton Avenue. She's dead. They hug and cry. They are devastated. I mean, they literally, what could it be? Half hour? I don't even know if it was that long.
They just left her. Ro can't deal. She's been, her son, her husband died the year before, 2 years before. Her Richie April, the brother-in-law, whatever. But her son, of course, and now her friend. She's losing it.
I mean, it's death all around them. I mean, they were in the pork store, the back room. They're playing cards, just killing time as they always do. Tony smacks Patsy in the back of the head. What the fuck you doing getting pinched for public disturbance when this family's on trial? Silvio steps up. It's my idea. There's something that hits home. I can't turn the other cheek on this.
Yeah, and Tony Tony understands, but he's not gung-ho about this shit.
Silvio's all in. Silvio is very passionate here. He tells him about, let's not forget, it was a friend of ours, Joe Colombo, who founded the first Italian-American anti-defamation organization. Now, that was just blocks from my house, where I grew up as a kid in Bensonhurst. It was on 17th Avenue.
What was the headquarters?
Headquarters, yeah. And I was, at the time, it started in 1970. I was 13 years old. And it was all over the neighborhood. Everybody had the stickers in their car windows, on their doors. This neighborhood of Bensonhurst at the time was, 95% Italian-American,
Right. And a lot of wise guys.
Oh, big wise guy enclave. And, Joe Colombo lived in Dyker Heights, which is all, Bay Ridge, Dyker Heights, Bensonhurst, very close, kind of bleeds into one another. And I remember this very vividly. As a matter of fact, the day he got shot, because Joe Colombo got shot, he wasn't killed.
He was shot in Columbus Circle.
Correct.
At a Unity rally, and he was shot 3 times, and he was in a coma for 7 years.
7 years. Died. June 21st, 1971 is when he was shot.
Remember. And there's a book about it. I mentioned it before in the air, Colombo, The Unsolved Murder by my friend Don Capria and Anthony Colombo. That really goes into all this in detail. It's very good. But you remember this specifically, huh?
Well, I remember that a lot of guys from the neighborhood were going. A lot of people in the neighborhood
to the rally.
Yeah, a lot of parents and a lot of kids, friends of mine, and for whatever reason, I don't know if I had school, for whatever reason, I wound up not going. I know at one point I was going to go. It was a big neighborhood thing. We were all going, and it was a big deal. Now, don't forget, Joe Colombo also felt that Italians were getting discriminated, as he felt the Jewish Defense League also. They kind of teamed up. Rabbi, I forget his name, one of the rabbis, famous one, Mayor Kahani.
Kahan?
Yeah, I believe. But Joe Colombo sat down with Al Ruddy, the producer of The Godfather.
Yes.
And the word mafia is never spoken in The Godfather. I don't know if everyone knows that. There's no mention of mafia.
Specific. Joe Colombo told him that, not to do that.
And so Joe Colombo was very passionate. It also was different. He was the head of the family. Most of these guys were low-key, underground. He was front and center. He did interviews. He was all over the news, the newspapers. I don't think the rest of the families like that. I don't think they were keen on him doing that.
I mean, this is kind of a stretch, but do you think did it have anything to do with his connection, his pride of having the name? I mean, Colombo is Columbus. That's the name.
That I don't know. No, I don't think so. This was an anti-Italian rally, defamation rally. It wasn't a Columbus rally.
Right,
But Silvio brings that up. He says, "My father was a knight of Columbus. Let's not forget Joe Colombo." He says, "I've been giving money for years to the organization."
Yeah, we're the victims here, he says as well.
Tony calls Zellman. Could you get this, get this to go away? He said, "That's a real hot potato."
It's a hot potato. It's First Amendment stuff, Native American stuff, very sensitive. Everyone's very sensitive. My hands are tied. He's like, I will be at the parade, as always, and show my support. Tony's a little pissed. I love Zellman. He's clipping his nose hairs. We spoke about this. There's always a detail. There's always something specific. He's also when they come in, Christopher, Tony's mad. Well, the guys find out that Sharon died. Furio says, "I just saw her at ShopRite," which it's something people always say when they hear someone die. I just saw him 2 weeks ago. I spoke to him, as if that makes, I don't know.
It becomes
people's
about
connection
themselves.
About themselves, right? I just saw him a month ago, whatever. But Christopher says, no, I wasn't there. Christopher doesn't really give a shit about this whole thing.
No.
Tony kind of does, but kind of doesn't. I think he thinks it's a bit of a waste of time. Silvio's all in, is like, this battle's going to be won on a PR level. Hearts and minds. They manipulate your image. You manipulate theirs, which is...
but
Silvio's
but Silvio tells him, "We need your leadership. Me and the guys need your leadership here. We need you to get involved." Tony reluctantly does. Zellman can't help him. Tony hangs up on Zellman. Zellman's a punching bag. He's a douche. He's a dirty cop, dirty politician. Tony can do whatever he wants to him. Zellman means nothing.
No, and Zellman, I guess Tony's thinking, use your brain. This is a better way to handle it than going down there and getting into fights. We don't need that kind of attention with the cops and all that bullshit.
Well, he tells Silvio, "We're running a business here. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
We're in Sandy Shaw's office. That's Janice's therapist. Sandy says she's played by Joyce Van Patten, Tim Van Patten's half-sister, and also Dick Van Patten's
Dick's sister. She was a Broadway star. She's done tons of TV. Perry Mason, Gunsmoke. She was on the Jack Benny show. She also was, there's a movie, it's actually a pretty bizarre, very 60s movie called I Love You, Alice B. Toklas. And she plays Peter Sellers' girlfriend. And it's a pretty funny movie, actually. And it was written by Paul Mazursky, by the way.
And she was married, I believe, at some point she was married to Martin Balsam. The great character actor, Martin Balsam, absolutely. And she's done a ton of stuff. Iconic character actress.
She's still acting, actually.
She was in Grown Ups a few years back. Adam Sandler movie. Dr. Sandy, another man who works with your brother, unable to meet your basic needs for love and respect, involved with another woman. Talking about Ralphie. And she blames it on, her childhood. She was autistic, and they never respect her or treated her. They rejected her. So she's blaming
her childhood and her mother and her father. No love, no support, shunned for being autistic. Blaming.
You replaced your father with your brother, and she makes some comment, thank God God's a she, according to Sandy.
God give me strength, don't worry, she will. Yeah, Sandy,
will.
She's a feminist, I guess.
Do you think God's a he or she?
I don't believe in God. I'm a Buddhist.
So you don't believe
Buddhists
there's a
don't
God?
Believe in God.
Okay, so
no, Buddhist is a non-theistic religion. Buddha was not a god, is not a god, and is not worshipped as one.
Okay, but when you did believe,
do you believe in God?
I don't know.
Do you believe in God?
We've had this discussion. I'm not quite sure. I don't believe in Buddha, but if there is a God, I believe
in Buddha. Buddha was lived.
I don't mean I don't
2,500 years ago.
I don't mean I don't believe in Buddha. I don't follow Buddha. I'm not a Buddhist, as you know.
Yeah, but I believe in that he existed, and his teachings make sense to me. I don't believe that he was God. I don't believe anybody's
like
God.
I do like the Buddhist stuff where if you're a prick on Earth in your next life, you come back as like a mouse or an ant. I like that. I like that concept. That might bring me to Buddhism. I like that kind of karma thing. If you're a prick, you're going to come back as a piece of shit or something. I like that.
If you're good, you'll come back better.
I
Not
like
a
that.
piece of shit. It has to be a sentient
Animal.
being.
And the lowest is what? An ant? A grasshopper?
That's a long story. No, well, there's kind of formless realms and stuff like that. But the best thing to be, it's actually very good to be human.
That's the top. If you're a good person
Well,
on Earth,
because then you can become enlightened, because you can understand the Dharma.
See, I like this concept.
You like
I
karma.
This.
But karma doesn't always happen in this lifetime. So you might do something bad, and the karmic repercussions may not come in this lifetime. But karma, so I teach this meditation class, and we talk sometimes about Buddhist things. And when they talk a lot about people are very interested in karma,
Mm-hmm.
So they say someone does something bad, that's karma when something bad happens to them. But it doesn't always happen in this lifetime per se, that's going to be paid back. You know what I mean?
So a murderer,
good things.
like say a piece of shit like Charles Manson, what's he going to come back as?
He's going to have bad time. Very bad time in his next life. Horrible. He's going to suffer a lot.
And rightfully so.
Well, it's not like a judgment thing. There's nobody who's judging him saying you're wrong and I'm going to do this to you. You're creating the circumstances by creating negative energy. You're creating the circumstances for that yourself. There's no cosmic person, cosmic judge who's doing it. You're doing it yourself. You create the circumstances for, it's just like in life. If you're a miserable person, you're going to start to reflect that in your life. If you're a nasty son of a bitch, that's going to start to, you're going to attract those types of people. You're going to attract those situations. It's very much like that. The people that you love the most, that you thought were the best people in your life, there was something consistent about the way they behaved, and it probably reflected in the people around them as well. Basically, that's it. So
I like this. I like this concept. That's all I'm saying.
I think you like it. Yeah, I know you
like it. I'm liking it. We're in the college lounge. Professor Del Redclay and Maggie are sitting on the couch. Here comes Ralphie. He says, my name's Henry Caruso.
Henry Caruso, Enrico Caruso, the famous opera singer. That's Henry Caruso. Enrico is Henry.
Oh, okay.
So I guess that's who he picked that name, Henry Caruso, Enrique Caruso.
Well, he comes in. First of all, he kind of hits on Maggie. Bad move.
He says, it's my TA, and he goes, I can see that.
Yeah.
Referring to TNA.
Italians here in Jersey, they've asked me to tell you it's not in your best interest to go through with this fucking thing. He comes right at him with a veiled threat. Not so veiled, actually.
He also says, pleased to meet you, which is a line from Sympathy for the Devil. Mm-hmm. Pleased to meet you. This protest you're spearheading, no pun intended,
That's
a
very
little
funny
dig
line.
there. And then he says, these people are pissed off, Italians. He's not going to be intimidated. And then he brings up Iron Eyes Cody. It's a very interesting story, this Iron Eyes Cody. Iron Eyes Cody was born in Louisiana to Sicilian immigrants. His father owned I think he owned like a deli or something in Louisiana. He moved to Texas. He was born in 1904. He did his first movie in the 1920s, and he played Native Americans his whole life. He adopted this persona, and he said that his father, he made up this whole persona, that he was half Cherokee, half Cree. He said his father was a silent film star by the name of Bill Cody, and that he did his first movie at 8 years old at MGM, which was complete bullshit. I saw an interview when I was preparing for this episode. There's an interview with him and his wife. It's a TV interview. It's late in his life. He's dressed in full Native American, wardrobe, headdress, jewelry, the whole thing, the hair. till his death. He kept this thing up, said that he was Native American. His name was Cody. His real name was Espera de Corti. He was a Sicilian guy. His whole life, he kept this thing up. People thought it was true. He was famous for that Keep America Beautiful commercial. Remember when it showed
the tear,
and he was the crying Indian. The interesting thing was he denied it. He denied his whole life. People, I think a couple of people challenged him. He denied it and that he was Italian. A lot of Native Americans kind of thought he did right by them, despite being fake. That his image that he projected as an actor and as an activist, I guess, was positive in the end. I guess.
And do you think
I don't know if that still holds today because people have different awareness about this issue. But at the time he died, I think when it came out that he really was Italian, he was in Sitting Bull. He played Crazy Horse. He was in the movie The Big Trail with John Wayne. He was in the movie A Man Called Horse with Richard Harris. He was in Nevada Smith with Steve McQueen. He did a lot of big stuff.
And do you think
his first film was 1923?
You think he lied just to get the work?
Yeah, completely.
I mean, I'm saying,
but he adopted this. That was his persona wherever he went. He was this Native American guy who started. His father was an actor in silent films. He pretended to be this guy. He wore the outfit, the hair, and he just, I guess at some point he started to believe it himself. You know what I mean?
A lot of Italians in Louisiana.
So Raffi thinks he's going to extort him by exposing Iron Eyes Cody because they're trying this whole thing about Columbus and Native American identity and stuff like that, basically saying your most famous person in the media wasn't even Native American. And this guy's a little uptight about it.
Well, he is when he finds out, but it's been, like Maggie says, it's been out there. It was on Entertainment Tonight. It's kind of been exposed. So this is a threat that's already been out there. They're not hitting new territory, Ralphie. So that just goes away. Soprano Kitchen. AJ's reading a book. Carmelo and Tony are in the kitchen. They're having a discussion about Christopher Columbus. Look, you had to walk in Columbus's shoes to see what he went through. He lands on an island with a bunch of naked savages on it. I mean, that took a lot of guts.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about whether he took a lot of guts. It's about what he did. I mean, the book, out of all the things I did in The Sopranos, one of the things I'm most proud of is this, because the book he's reading, Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States, is a book that I read many years before that really kind of woke me up in terms of aspects of American history that we weren't taught in school. We were taught a very whitewashed version of what went on in terms of, here's a great example. When I was a kid, I wasn't taught that this is what happened. What he quotes is one of the first entries in Columbus's journal saying, Columbus wrote in his journal, they're very kind people. They swam out with gifts as we approached. 50 more men could subjugate them. They'll make fine servants and make them do whatever we want. I wasn't taught that as a kid. This book goes into a very detailed of history in a very just honest way, presenting, kind of what actually happened. Sales for this book after this episode aired went way up for a really long time, actually.
Oh, wow.
So I was proud of that a lot of people went out and bought this book because Howard Zinn's a great historian and, great mind. And people bought the book. It's an interesting argument. It's like,
so what do you think now? It's happening in modern day now. People want the Columbus statues down. They anti-Columbus, Christopher Columbus everywhere. Should the statues be knocked down? Should there not be Columbus parades?
I think there should be Italian American pride parades. God knows Italians have done so much for this country. And they need to have, I think a lot of people are afraid that that's what's going to happen. By not celebrating Columbus, they're going to not celebrate Italian Americans. I think we should separate the two, celebrate Italian Americans, maybe celebrate a different Italian every year. Do
Michael
Frank Sinatra.
Imperioli Day. Michael
No, Frank
Imperioli Day.
Sinatra, or I don't know, James Gandolfini Day. So, people who have contributed to the culture, Mario Cuomo Day. I don't know. I think we should celebrate Italian Americans. I think it's very offensive to a lot of people what this guy did. He was an American. He never really came to the United States.
Carmela defends him. The father of our country, George Washington, was a slave trader.
That apparently is true, but that's where it gets a lot more complicated. So how far do you take this argument?
Exactly.
Do we change the name of why? The only distinction I'll make is that Washington really was an American and lived in America and was trying to do something, first break away from England and maybe evolve the culture. But the reality is he did have slaves.
And
so
Columbus,
what do we do about that?
Columbus is a hero in the Soprano house, Tony says. And Tony tells AJ, you finally read a book and it's bullshit, which is a great line. This is a big argument. It's amazing that you wrote this almost 20 years ago. And it's, a hot potato topic right now.
It's kind of come full circle.
That's for sure. Right. You said God knows, even though you don't believe in God.
Who said God knows?
You just said God. You mentioned God. I don't know if
I
you
didn't
even
mean it
noticed
literally.
that.
That's just an expression.
I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying.
God knows means, it's an expression, Steve, please. Okay. Well, what are you trying to infer? That I really do believe in God?
I'm not inferring.
A fake Buddhist?
Listen, let's get this straight. I don't infer anything. If
no,
I
you
say
did.
it,
You're pointing
say
something
it.
out. You're trying to make. Well, what's your point?
That you said God knows.
It's an expression.
It's like
if I say God damn it, do I mean I want God to damn some person to hell? No, it's just an expression.
All right. Long after you must have woke up on the wrong side of this.
No, you're just pushing buttons left and right.
There's something wrong. I asked you about the dildo. You got bent out of shape. Now I'm asking you about God. You're bent out of shape. We're at Karen's wake. Bobby sobbing hysterically.
Dildos and God. You're really. It's a wide range of topics today. We're
dildos and God. Just like
from A to Z here.
Bobby cries hysterically. He's sobbing.
Bobby's a mess in this scene, and you did a great Steve as Bobby. You did a great.
Thank you very much.
You had to go to a very dark place and a very desperate place and a tragic place, and you really did. It's very intimate and almost uncomfortable watching Bobby go through it. It was great what you did there.
Bobby is just upset. He's got his kids there. They're staring at him. The place is packed.
Was it hard doing that?
Very hard. Very hard. Yeah. I mean, I had done a few episodes out of sequence, and I had to cry in numerous, 2 or 3 coming, this one and other ones. And I just put myself in such a dark, depressing place in order for me to be able to do that. And don't forget, you're not doing it once, as you know. You're doing it 10 times, maybe.
You're doing it from different angles, and you're not sure how they're going to shoot it, and you got to save something, and you can't go all out right at the top. It's very hard.
Tim Van Patten was very, very sensitive to that, and he helped me along. He was great.
Sometimes you got to break for lunch and not finish a scene like that and come back to it. That happens.
But we didn't. Never know. In this case, we didn't do that.
Good.
But everyone was very supporting, all the other actors, and gave me my quiet time and left me alone and all that. I had a headset on. I didn't speak to anyone. I was listening to music. I didn't talk to anyone from when I got there that day, unless I.
You got to be focused. You can't just pull it out of a hat. You have to be focused. You kind of got to get yourself there. No, it's to make it real. You can't. You got to kind of put yourself, and you can't be in it crying all day long. But you got to kind of keep yourself close to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you
You
still got
can't just
to
go into
you still got to remember the lines. You still got to remember your actions. I mean, there was this. I think one of Bobby's sisters maybe comes over and he pushes her away. Yeah, it was. Tim was great with that with me. Karen, played by Christine Petty, terrific Broadway actress and entertainer. And I don't know if I've told the story, but at the read through, they usually call you. I think she did one other episode,
Right.
and they usually call you and tell you, well, you're gonna die and this. And I don't think anyone ever called her. And
So she showed up. She had not read the script
because
when she
they
showed
didn't
up
get
at the
the
read
script. Yeah, they didn't get the script.
So she wasn't aware. So she she had no idea.
She had no idea. And Kristen Bernstein, who was our AD, one of our ADs, just,
Second assistant
I
director.
think took her outside and let her know. Listen, I just want to let you know, about what's going to happen in there. She tipped her off. I guess it was a oversight.
It was an oversight.
It wasn't done purposely, and that was it for her. Unfortunately, I mean, she had to climb in that coffin, which thank God I've never did, and you've done, and you don't like it.
I've done it twice.
You didn't like it.
It's no fun. It's weird.
Yeah,
There's something weird about it.
You see,
I think if I did it today, I wouldn't bother me. Back then, it did. Today,
I'm never going to get that far because when I go, I'm not going to go in a coffin. I'm not having a funeral, so I won't be in there. Ever,
yeah, but they put you in one anyway. Even when they burn you up, cremation, they put you in one to begin with. I think I'm pretty sure they don't just put you in.
No,
just.
I gotta see what I gotta see what I gotta do about that, and otherwise the cremator's gonna go on the fucking video. I'll put him on the video.
No,
cocksucker. He won't fucking. He's gonna put me in a coffin. I'll put him on. Oh, the list is. I'm up to 22. It was 14 last week. 22 people. It's amazing.
Wow, it's gonna be a long video.
It's gonna be a long. You're gonna have your work cut out for you.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ, you said it again. There is no Jesus Christ according to you.
I think
Who are you talking about?
I actually think there was. There was a Jesus Christ.
It's so easy.
2,000 years ago. I just don't believe that he was God.
You're an easy target for me, man. So Bobby's crying. Gabby says Sil was on the phone. He was talking with somebody about how Bobby was the only one of them who didn't have a Gomata. They were laughing at him. Carmela says, who was he talking on the phone to? Wants to know if it was Tony, obviously. They look over. Great scene. Here's the girls all grieving. Adriana, Ro, Carmela, Gabby.
Feels guilty because what she's going through.
And
Bobby didn't have a gumad, huh? That wasn't his thing. He wasn't a swinger. He wasn't a.
He was a family man. Family man.
Missionary. We've said this before. Missionary sex. No dildos. No vibrators.
Janice never pulled any of that shit with him.
No poppers. No amyl nitrate.
None of that was flying there. Bobby wasn't getting pimped out. Bobby Bacala wasn't going to get pimped out on the street. No. They were laughing at him. He looks across, and then you got Silvio showing a ring, and Tony, and the guys are just bullshitting. It's another funeral.
Well, Silvio's It looks like they're planning. They're planning to do something with the protest. That's what I got. It looked like they were talking about.
But listen, they've been to 100 of these funerals. They're laughing. It's no big deal to them. Ralphie goes over to Johnny Sack, who's signing the book, and he gives him an envelope. This is for Allegra's nursing school graduation. I'm sorry I missed it. He slaps it to the ground, stick it up your ass. Johnny tells Tony, keep him away from me.
I like that he calls him Count Chocula.
Yeah.
Tony calls Johnny Sack Count Chocula, from the breakfast cereal. Why is that? It kind of looks like him. He's got that dark.
I guess maybe he's got. He's pale. I don't know, like kind of.
He's pale. It's kind of like hair pushed back. Count Chocula. He doesn't say Count Dracula. He says Count Chocula. Yeah. Ginny Sack says I played canasta with her last week, referring to Karen. Again, that's that whole thing.
You want to be involved. Tony says somebody's talking too much and it's costing me money. And we know who that is. It's Paulie.
Right.
I think Paulie, if they knew for sure, Paulie would be dead, right?
I don't know. That's a good question. Dead, you think?
I think they would
Probably
kill
get a
Paulie.
warning. Yeah,
I don't
talking
think so.
outside of the family, you can't do that.
I think he would get killed. Also, Carmela talks we're going on food duty. We're bringing different women, different nights are going to bring food over to Bobby and his family to help him out.
Rosalie's bedroom. Ralphie's getting dressed. Ralphie's putting on his socks. There's something with Ralph and feet for some reason. No, remember that. Track that because it comes up again. He's putting on his sock. Rosalie's inconsolable, no release. I'm surrounded by death. My husband, my son, my friend. You have any idea? And Ralphie's he's already messing around with Janice.
Well, he could care less. I mean, he says, what's in it for me? What do I get? She said, you could comfort me. I've been there for you. Sexually, every which way. Now, sexually, do you think she shoves dildos up his ass?
No.
Ro does it?
No.
No way.
I don't think so. No.
This was an isolated, well, not isolated, but Ro doesn't do that.
Janice had that edge. She did the role playing with the gun with Ralphie, with Richie. So she has a hand in that.
But that's odd. She mentions that. That's all. That she says, I've been there for you sexually, every which way. How about comforting me? He goes, I can't do it. What's it for me? I can't do it. When she gives him a little sliver of an out, what, you want to leave? He goes, yeah, very weakly. And he's happy. Oh, inside, he's jumping up and down that she asked him that.
And he says, I don't think I can help you. He's kind of being honest. He's not only that he can't help him, he's not willing to help her. He doesn't.
But it's just bad timing. There's certain things you just can't do. You stick around for a couple weeks or something.
That is true.
I mean, she's a mess. Come on, man. But death to guys like Ralphie and these guys are not that big a deal.
They turn the page.
Yeah. Tony Hesh, Ralphie Silvio, Christopher Rubin the Cuban.
Great actor, a great guy, somebody I love. I love his work, and he's just a really great human being. Yul Vasquez.
New York actor.
He was in Labyrinth Theater. He was the artistic director. He still is, and he was for a long time. He did there was a great play, Last Days of Judas Iscariot, he did with Sam Rockwell, that was directed by Philip Seymour Hoffman. He was great on Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah.
As, I forget the name of the character, but it was that very intimidating gay character, the Puerto Rican Day Parade. Puerto Rican Day Parade, there's that. Is that the?
I don't know, but he wore the AIDS thing. He didn't wear the AIDS ribbon. He wouldn't wear the thing,
and then they stole the armoire. Him and his boyfriend, and he was very intimidating, which was a very funny character. He was also in Treme, The Good Wife, Louis, Bad Boys 2, American Gangster, but he's just a great actor.
He's great.
He has a lot of range as an actor too. He's very,
and this is the only time you've seen him as on the show, right? I think this is all the first and last episode.
It may be, yeah.
Tony.
And this is the first time we see Payamai, played by the great Goldie.
And Goldie's still alive, I understand.
Goldie's the name of the horse that plays Payamai. Yeah. Is Goldie a man playing a woman, or not a man playing a woman? A male horse playing a female horse, or is Goldie a female horse?
You can't talk about that. It's very politically incorrect. You can't
even among horses. No, it's
absolutely not. You can't talk about any of that stuff. It doesn't matter if it's a male or a female.
You're becoming very politically correct, Steve.
Yes, I am.
I'm surprised, actually. Usually,
it's 2020, and I'm going with the flow.
I don't know. Payamai, Goldie's real, Payamai is they call it a filly, right? Is a, female horse, but it's, Payamai is a thoroughbred, and Hesh is very excited about it, and Ralphie's going to buy the horse.
And Hesh, Tony X Hesh, says, you know anybody over there at the Indian Casino in Connecticut? This Columbus Day protest, we need someone to make it go away. He said, you should hear what my kid's talking about Columbus. And
he says he knows his nephew Marty is a manager over there at the casino. And Ruben says, yes, they wiped out almost all of my people. They say, are you Cubans from Spain? He's like, no, the Taino Indians. To us, Christopher Columbus was no better than Hitler. And then Hesh doesn't take kindly to that remark. That's too big of a comparison. Not a fair comparison. If you got that kind of covert anti-Semitism, I'd like you to leave my house. So we're talking about these. It also reflects back on the Montel Williams show. Montel taking offense when the Italian guy compares his ancestors' trip to the same as Africans coming over on slave boats. It's a big mess of, conflict here.
Hesh says at one point, what's wrong with free speech? Hesh is, he's a liberal guy, Hesh, but he takes big offense the comparison with Hitler and Columbus. He calls him a cocksucker when he walks away. Jerry Adler's very good in this. Yeah. Plays a great role as always. Silvio, there's a MLK Day, Martin Luther King Day. What about us? That's where he leaves off.
Junior's calling looking for Bobby, and he's kind of, how's my boy doing? He knows I couldn't make it to the services. I want to know if he's going to pick me up for court. Junior's a selfish prick.
He doesn't go. He didn't go to Bobby's father's funeral, who was a friend of his, a longtime friend, and he doesn't go to Bobby's wife's funeral. I mean, I don't care what he's going through. You show your face for 10 minutes and go. Very disrespectful to Bobby. Yeah. Real slap in the face. Really. Carmela, who doesn't like him anyway at all, he says, don't villainize me. Murph goes to bed early. I wanted to call him if I needed him to drive me. She said, why don't you just let Bobby be for a while? I mean, this just happened. Days, Junior. And then Junior says, I remember when I first met Karen, she said I looked like Pablo Picasso. I didn't know what that looked like until I looked it up, and yeah, I do. It's all about him again. Selfish.
She says that's very touching, and she hangs up on him.
Amazing that he didn't go to the funeral. Really amazing.
It's a big statement. Yeah.
Janice's house, Ralphie honks, comes outside. He's yelling, Stella. Ralphie, we don't have to hide anymore, baby. He's ecstatic. I told him I don't want to be with her anymore. I mean, he's ecstatic. He's happy. This is it. She's a little annoyed at first. And then he starts kissing her neck. And
yeah, she's not sure she wants to go all in. It was kind of a good arrangement. She didn't, they had their fun and then he left. But now she doesn't know if she wants that. Yeah.
And that happens, right? You're seeing somebody or whatever, and they, it's like, okay, this is okay the way it is, but you want to get too close, you want to get too serious, it's like, oh, that's a turnoff, But then she also, don't forget, she also talked to her therapist, said you're getting involved with another one of these guys again,
A guy who's involved with another one,
He starts seducing her, kissing her neck. No more hiding. She says, oh, my God, I forgot. It's my turn for Bobby Bacala to bring fruit tonight. He goes, oh, you're on ZD Patrol? Rose on Thursdays. It's funny. They go upstairs. I'm assuming the dildo up the ass again. I'm assuming that's what happened up there. You wrote it. What do you think?
What goes on up there? Probably more of the same. Yeah,
more of the same.
Maybe even more bizarre. Maybe they're wearing costumes by this point.
What would Janice be wearing? Like a Donald Duck?
Like a pimp costume. Yeah,
A pimp
like
with the big hat? The big hat with the walking stick? Pimps don't dress like that anymore. That was very 70s, 80s. Vesuvio. Tony and Silvio have dinner with Marty.
Marty, played by the late Jerry Grayson, who was a good friend of ours. I first worked with him. He played Tommy Bilotti, who was Paul Castellano's right-hand man and driver. And I think he died when Castellano got murdered. He played Tommy Bilotti in Witness to the Mob, a movie that I was in, as well as Sirico and Vinny Pastore. But also he was in The Hungry Ghosts,
Yeah.
a movie that you starred in that I directed. He played himself in that movie. He also, he was a stand-up comic in the Borscht Belt. He started in that whole scene in the 60s. He was actually roommates with Lenny Bruce at one time in L.A. Oddly enough, he used to do a Jerry Lewis act. He would kind of go, part of his stand-up was, he would do that. He would do that whole thing. And Jerry Lewis managed him at one time.
Really?
As he was doing this Jerry Lewis act. Yeah, Jerry Grayson was a very interesting dude.
And did you ever see his stand-up? Have you ever seen the stand-up?
No, but when we did a play at Studio Dante called The Joke, that was about, with Tommy Sadowski and Jordan Gelbart, was about stand-up comedians. He was our technical advisor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because it was kind of about Catskill, Borscht Belt comedians, and he helped us out there. The other actor playing Chief Doug Smith is Nick Chinland, who I also know from the theater scene in New York from many years ago. He's been in a lot of movies, Con Air, Training Day, Chronicles of Riddick. He's a very good actor. He plays Chief Doug Smith here.
You know, Marty's a pain in the ass because right away they're sitting down, they're waiting for the chief. He's saying, tell Hesh the bubble printer he bought my granddaughter, the bubble printer he bought my granddaughter doesn't work. I know he's got the sales receipt. You know, he's one of those guys. You're telling Tony and Silvio
it doesn't work.
About a bubble printer.
$100 printer or whatever. Yeah.
Kind of a pain in the ass. Here comes the chief. Silvio says you don't look like an Indian, which we've seen. Not all the tribe looks like your stereotypical Native American.
What did happen, he says, I passed my whole life as white, and then I had a racial awakening, and I found out my grandmother on my mother's side was 1/4 Mohawk, which is a Indian, was a Native American tribe in the Northeast United States. But when this casino thing happened, like at Foxwoods in the Northeast, I read an article, said something about some guy was similar thing, did not know that he had any Native American blood, and then did some research, and it turned out very similar, and he wound up being, one of the chiefs at one of these casinos. That's what I read. You only had to be, basically, and this might only apply to one region or one casino or one tribe, I don't know, but 1/16th.
1/16th. I was going to say 1/8, but 1/16th, huh?
Yeah.
We've done a lot of
something. You may not, look like, that might not be the predominant look that you.
We've done a lot of stuff in casinos over the years, Indian casinos, a whole lot. Mohegan Sun, Foxwoods. I've done some in the Midwest. They're always very nice, very pleasant people. Yeah. It's the tribe, and a lot of the tribe work there. And I think it was a great thing because it's really helped them tremendously.
No, it certainly has, without a doubt.
And at one point, Foxwoods was made more money than any casino in the country. At one point, I want to say in the 80s. Sinatra played there. Big fights, and since there's a lot of competition, and they're still going strong, Foxwoods, Mohegan Sun, right here in Connecticut. Chief says I had business in Manhattan, and Artie says, no, not again.
Right, referring to the sale of Manhattan. What is that? Peter Stuyvesant? Was he the one who bought Manhattan?
Peter Minuet, isn't it?
Peter Minuet, right?
Peter Minuet. But Marty's a pain in the ass.
Marty's a pain in the ass. Chief, and the chief basically says, this protest is not going to happen. There are people like Red Clay are out of touch. They don't understand the economic opportunity that funds much of the Native American community. Tony's like, we got kids. We don't want a heritage attacked. And the chief is basically saying, I'm going to take care of it.
He's very
He's already looking several moves down, thinking that he's going to get something out of this.
Oh, yeah.
Tony.
But he's also very confident. And if I was Tony and Silvio, I would think they got this done. You know?
You would think he got it done.
Yeah.
He seems very confident. He's obviously a powerful guy in the community. But is he confident, or is he just saying that?
Slick,
basically knowing that
maybe.
He wants to get something from Tony, and he's going to have to return the favor.
Listen, you know the way casino hosts are. I mean, they're there to lure you in. You know, they treat you nice. I mean, I know a ton of them.
He's the CEO. He's
but you know them too.
But
We've dealt with a lot of them. We know them. You know, they're good people, but it's business. You know, that's the kind of the business they're in. Make the customers happy.
Well, it's a little different for if you're not a gambler, then you know where you know.
Yeah.
If you're a gambler, then it's a whole other relationship. Yeah.
We're at Bobby's house. Janice brings over Kentucky Fried Chicken. Bobby's sitting in the kitchen. She says,
food like that solves all the world's problems. Because they're bringing him food left and right all the time, thinking that that's,
But isn't that what Italians think anyway? I've said that before on the show. They eat during funerals, when they're happy, when they're sad, divorces. Yeah. Everything's food. You know,
have you ever seen the movie Fatso? Have you seen that? Dom DeLuise.
Dom DeLuise.
Directed by Anne Bancroft. I think written by her.
Great
Dom
movie.
DeLuise it's a really good movie. Actually, very funny, but also very sad and very real at moments. And it really goes into that whole thing about the psychology behind the Italians and food and eating and how far that can go. I love that movie.
It's a great movie. I tell you how old I am. I saw that in the theater.
Did you? Yeah.
In the theaters in Brooklyn, in the Loews Oriental. It's a great movie. That's one of those movies. Whenever it's on, I watch it.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Memorable scenes in that. If you haven't seen that, people may want to check that out. Fatso. Janice brings over KFC. She gives him some bullshit story. My Bible class, sorry I missed last night. I know we're neighbors. We don't talk much. But if you want, I'm here for you. Janice sits down. Bobby breaks down again, crying. He explains to her the accident. I was stuck in traffic. He feels guilty, horribly guilty.
A lot of guilt, a lot of remorse.
He really, really opens up to someone that he doesn't really know well at all.
Right. So the fact that he lost his wife is so much more complicated and compounded by the fact that he feels guilty, that he was mad at her, that he should have been there, whatever it is. He's really in despair.
Terrible, poor guy.
And she's touched. Something in the fact that you were that devoted to your wife and are so moved by her death really touches her.
Pork store, back room. Tony, Silvio, Patsy sit at the table. The chief calls. I wish I had better news. I struck out. Red Clay didn't go for it. Do we know it? What do you think? Maybe he didn't even call Red Clay. It was all a ploy?
Maybe he called and the guy said, "Fuck you. I don't care what you say. We're doing it." And there's really very little he could do. Maybe he offered him some kind of bullshit bribe and the guy didn't take it. The guy's principled. You ask him about Iron Eyes Cody, he didn't give a shit. Most Native Americans, they don't give a flying fuck. It's like knowing James Conn is an Italian. And also, like I said, a lot of Native Americans then, I don't know how it applies now, at the time of his death, were kind of okay with the image that he portrayed of Native American. He was an environmentalist, which they appreciated, and I don't know.
I bet you there's a lot of people listening and watching that don't know that James Conn is not Italian.
Really?
Yeah. I bet you. I mean, not that it's a big deal. Terrific actor, terrific guy. Did a ton of work.
A lot of people thought Brando was Italian. Brando's not Italian.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, I bet you, And Tony tells Silvio it's over. It's over. That's it. And he wants to keep going.
He goes, well, listen, we think he's fucking his grad student. We'll hire a detective. I mean, it's getting really fucking ridiculous. And Tony's just like, I think it's over. Just kind of like, let's move on. It's pretty funny. And then Silvio was like, we'll hire a detective. We'll get, expose this. Tony wasn't into it to begin with.
No,
I mean, he jumped on a little with his son, but he's not. They got bigger fish to fry.
So Silvio was very into it. We're back at the therapist's office, Sandy Shore.
But they do invite him. Doug invites them up. Come up and spend a day. I'll take care of you at the casino. Yeah. That's
Sandy Shore's office. Janice, he just lost his wife. He had so much sadness, so much love for her, complete and pure emotion. I felt unworthy to even be in his presence. I was so moved. And then I look at Ralphie. You saw in this man, I like when she says, what does this man do? Like he's some civilian. And she goes, he works with my brother, but he's not like the others. Good line. He's different, believe me. She said, well, go back to Ralph. You got to sit him down, level with him, with the compassion and respect that you're famous for. And say goodbye for his sake as well as yours.
She's famous for
her compassion. She knows how to talk to people and casino.
And she believes that. Janice believes that she is just compassionate and, respectful human being.
Tony, Silvio, Christopher, Patsy shooting dice.
And this is kind of based on, one of those like Foxwoods or something. And it's
in the high roller room.
So it's close. It's a little bit closer to the city than Atlantic City. Actually, those casinos put a big dent in Atlantic City when they first started. Going into business. We had a lot of good times up at Foxwoods. Our buddy Jerry Longo was there for a long time. We did a bunch of appearances, all of us. Jim and
Well,
Tony
one
Sirico.
of the last times we were all together was at Mohegan Sun, and that was the appearance we did in March of 2013. Jim passed away in May. There was June. I mean, Jim passed away in June, but it was all of us up there doing kind of a reunion appearance after all the years.
But we did the Foxwoods ones while the show was still on. They were huge. Lots of people. It was a lot of fun.
I remember you getting stinking drunk at some of those.
I was the only one. Just me.
You were like full down drunk in some.
You remember one it was after season, it was between season 1 and 2, I think, when we did our first one. And Steven Tyler and Joe Perry from Aerosmith showed up. And Steven Tyler was wearing a T-shirt that said "Pussy is not dead." That he had made up. He made up those T-shirts. He knew Vinny Pastore. James Woods was at that appearance and hung out with us.
Yeah. They were a lot of fun.
Really fun events. We had a really good time.
That was a lot of fun. I told you there was one time I was getting I went to get a massage because we were comped. Everything was completely free. We had butlers. Remember, we had suites with butlers.
Sometimes the chips were free too. They'd give you some on the house.
But then you would just call, right? Like, hey, bring us up 2 steaks, or, I need more wine or tequila, whatever we were drinking. And so I go to get a massage, and the girl that's going to massage me is about the same size as me. And I'm on the table, and she's pushing. I could swear the table's creaking. I said, we're going to fucking go down here.
So was that a good massage or a bad massage?
It was a good massage, but scary. She was, she was working me over there. Back to Sandy. So she tells Janice, sit him down, level with him, and that's that. The casino. Chris wants more chips. He's out of chips. He says, "Go see
chips," because we used to get those sometimes too. Some comp chips to gamble with, which is always fun.
Well, we got him at. If you remember the Golden Nugget in Vegas, we were all there. Huge appearance.
Our buddy Rich Wilk was.
Rich Wilk.
was running things over there and
And the two guys, they were young guys, owned the casino, Tom Breitling, Tim Poster, and they gave us free chips, and they dealt. The owner of the casino went out there and dealt, and I still lost. He had the whole card up. I still lost my money, but he gave us free chips and showed us what was in the underneath in the whole card, and I still couldn't win. Yeah. Remember that? The Golden Nugget.
To all our viewers and listeners, don't expect that to happen anytime soon.
Exactly.
At any casino anywhere.
But that was a good one, and they did it like the old days. He got back there, he dealt to us. We were all playing, and we're at Melfi's house. Richard arrives. Melfi lets him in. I want to give you a check for Jason's tuition. And then they turn on the TV. Christopher Columbus Park in Newark, where this afternoon violence broke out between Native American demonstrators and members of a coalition of 18 various Italian American pride organizations.
So the wise guys didn't go, but there wound up being violence because these Italian American anti-defamation people went. So they're, no better than anybody. And Richard's watching go, oh, this is tragic. It's worthy of Albinoni's Adagio, it's a very Platoon. There's that scene in Platoon when guys are dying, and it's this very kind of sad classical piece. That's what he's referring to there.
Janice's house. Ralph walks in. He's got his luggage. This is the last of the stuff I had at Rose. She says, your shoes. She's at the top of the stairs. Again,
something with Ralphie's feet. There's another scene with
he's walking up the stairs. Yeah. He's walking up the stairs. She's at the top of the stairs. Your shoes.
So the respect and compassion she's famous for.
It's not. We're gonna see it in a moment. Didn't I ask you to take your shoes off when you came in this house? He says, I forgot. What's the big deal? You forgot. That's just it. You fucking forgot. She pushes him down the stairs.
She is
crazy.
She's done with him before he walks in the house.
But you see a shot of Ralphie before he starts up the stairs, and you forget that that's where she killed Richie, with the right in that room, like kind of in that room, the fireplace. He throws the beer bottle at the fireplace. You kind of forget that's Livia's house. He's up the stairs. She pushes him down. Looks like he's really hurt. I mean, you fall down a flight of stairs, you could hurt his back. He's cursing
falling
up.
Down the stairs is Livia. There's a Johnny Soprano fell down the stairs and Livia laughed. There's a thing, and then Tony falls down the stairs and Livia smiled. There's a thing with somehow falling down.
She says, He says, I'll kill you, you crazy bitch. She hides in the room, not afraid of him, really. Crazy.
No, she's as dangerous as any of them.
Silvio's car. Silvio, Tony, Patsy, Christopher, the drive home from the casino. Silvio
forgot that there was the parade, that was the day of the parade. And he's like, I should have been there. Maybe we should whack this. And Tony's like, bullshit. All you were thinking about was blackjack all day long. We should whack this prick. And Tony's pissed. He's like, you think this was this day in the country was free? T. Smith wants Frankie Valli to come up there and play a week. That's what this whole fucking junket was about. This bad blood with Frankie's manager. Chief wants me to intervene as payback for him reaching out to Red Clay. Now Tony's pissed off. And
he says, you handle it. He tells Silvio, you handle Frankie. He says, I haven't talked to him in years. He had a falling out with the manager, the chief, and he's reaching out for Tony's help. Then he starts talking about Gary Cooper again.
Grandparents were spit on. My grandparents got spit on, Silvio says, because they were from Calabria. And he's like, all the good things in your life. Tony's basically saying, let's get over this shit. He's more about individualism. All the good things in your life, did they become because they come to you because you're Italian? The answer is no. It's because you're smart. Where's our self-esteem? It doesn't come from Columbus or the Godfather or Chef Boyardee. Basically saying, everyone wants to hide behind being a group. They discriminate group. He brings up Gary Cooper. Today they'd be crying crying being a victim of the fundamentalist Christians. He abused cowboys.
It's very funny. He mentions gay rights and Christopher. Gary Cooper was gay. Very funny line. He says, Silvio, all you cared about was blackjack. He kind of calls him out on his bullshit in a way. He was passionate for a little while, and then he wasn't passionate anymore.
He says, well, Gary Cooper faced down the Miller gang. Did he complain? He was from an illiterate background. And he's like, T, you're confusing in the movies. He's like, Columbus was so long ago, it may as well have been a movie. Did you suffer? He's asking Silvio. You got a kid at Lackawanna College. You got one of the most profitable strip clubs in North Jersey. You know what basically saying, get over it. Get over yourself.
Really, really good episode. Another
and then
great
Dawn
one.
comes on, Frankie Valli.
Frankie
Valley,
who we're going to have on soon. He's coming on soon,
back.
Frankie Valli.
Rusty Emilio, go away. Back where you belong, girl. We can't change the places we were born.
Great episode.
Tony's just basically saying,
You wrote another good one, my friend.
Yeah, that was
really
a fun
good
one.
episode. I enjoyed this. A lot of laughs in there. A lot of good stuff all the way around. So well done, my friend.
All right. Now it is time for the Talking Sopranos Ask Me Anything segment. The winner of our AMA Best Question of the Week is Taylor from Markleville, Indiana. We're sending Taylor a pair of Bose headphones.
So Taylor asks, how do you guys prepare for the podcast? Do you take notes while rewatching each episode? Do you have to watch each episode multiple times, etc.? Thank you. I love the show.
That's a good question. I'm glad you asked that, Taylor.
How do you prepare? I've never asked you.
Well,
I don't think we've ever talked about this.
We've mentioned this, but for those who don't know, Steve and I have not watched The Sopranos since it initially aired for the most part. So we really had, we had to watch very carefully. So what I do is I watch an episode and I pause, I take a lot of notes about things I remember, about noting a specific actor that is new and or a cultural reference or a song, and I make a lot of notes and I stop. I'll pause something and then I'll research something if I don't remember who that actor was, what else they did. If it's a cultural reference, I'll look that up and see what that's about. If it's a song, I'll look up, there are websites that tell you what song was what. And if I don't know it, I'll look it up and look at the lyrics and see how significant, if there's a significance in the lyrics or try to think about why. So watching an episode takes a couple of hours because it's a lot of pausing and a lot of cross-referencing, and I take a lot of notes on a legal pad. Then our crack production team, who are amazing and always very prepared, send out a breakdown sheet, which has a scene by scene with spaces underneath each. They'll list some dialogue, they'll list the scene, and then they'll have some space. And then I will transfer all those legal pad notes and whatever else I find out in the meantime onto this breakdown sheet and get it very organized. I'll asterisk questions maybe I want to ask you about your life or about how do you relate to this or this, if it's a scene you did, specific things to ask you. And then the morning of, I'll watch it again just to watch, and I won't stop it and I won't really take notes unless it's something I missed, just to kind of get the vibe of it again. And that's how I prepare.
Basically the same exact thing. Basically the same thing. It takes me longer, about 2.5 hours, maybe longer. Stop and go. Show's very complicated. It's not an easy show. It's some scenes, Melfi and Tony, and like this car scene at the end of this past episode. Very complicated. A lot of references, a lot of things, I'll watch it. I'll write the notes. I'll get the notes were done from production. I put them together, try to do that the day before so it's fresh. Then I try to watch it a couple hours before we go on the air. So basically the same thing. There's no shortcut. There's no doing it shorter. There's no cliff notes. There's no, I'll look on Wikipedia, see what they say. It's impossible to do it the right way. And then along the way, some like Joe Colombo will remind me of when I was a kid growing up, or we ate that food, or whatever it is, and discuss it. Like when I saw the dildo scene, I said, let me ask Michael if that was...
I'm really glad you did. I'm happy. Here's a typical, I don't know if you could see this or how well you could see it, or the light, I don't know. It's a breakdown scene.
Back it up a little. Back it up a little.
It's a light.
Andy will handle that. Yeah, but that's
a sheet with my notes, and so I use a highlighter to highlight certain things that Andy wrote. But it's a lot. We certainly do not just turn on the camera and just bullshit. I mean, there's a lot of preparation that goes into it because we want to be able to talk specifically about stuff, and we want to, this show is about an episode by episode and really a scene by scene breakdown of the show and what went into every scene. We get very, detailed about it. And I think that's why people like the show.
Which is why we are the definitive Soprano podcast. So thank you, Taylor from Markville, Indiana. Enjoy your Bose headphones. Now, thanks for listening. And remember, new episodes are released every Monday. Now, look, I'm asking everybody, please, if you haven't subscribed to the Talking Sopranos podcast on YouTube, please do so. It doesn't cost anything. Please do us that favor. Do I ask you for anything? I never asked you for nothing. Do me a favor here. Subscribe on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you're getting your podcast. Follow us, please, on Twitter and Instagram, and like us on Facebook. And right now, you can get official Talking Sopranos merchandise on TalkingSopranos.com or through our YouTube channel.
Our executive producer is Jeff Sussman. Our producer is Andy Verderam. Music, theme song, composed and performed by Elijah Amaton. You can hear more of Elijah's music in the band Zopa, which Elijah and I play in together, by clicking the links at TalkingSopranos.com. Our production crew includes Ty Verderam and Sierra Schirripa. We record Talking Sopranos at NYC Podcasting, which is New York's premier podcasting studio. It's the best in town. Talking Sopranos is a Pod Jams production.
All right, pal.
See you next week.
I enjoyed talking to you.
Yes, sir.
I'll talk to you soon.
See you later.